I'm sorry, one of the things you had asked me to call the state and make sure that they had an issue, and they had not issued me anything because they hadn't heard. Well, I explained to them we're in the process, and we'll be getting there. So, if the board is comfortable, what I'd like is a motion for me to sign off on these, and assuming they can authorize the program, I would then pass them along to the select board, because the select board will be the body that actually signs off on it and sends these back to them. I'll second that. Peter, comment? Further discussion? Okay, Ellen, please call.
Hollywood Squares here. Robin Duguay,
Yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Peter Bakey,
Yes.
and Glenn Koppelman, yes. Did I miss anybody? Oh, Richard, you're in the witness protection program.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. So that's unanimous. Oh, well, it's not unanimous because
we need Ellen's vote
we're
'cause
missing
she's
Ellen's
voting.
vote. So then the vote will be 6 in favor, none opposed, and 1 not registering.
Pending.
Non-voting.
Well, non-voting, I guess. Okay, I will take care of that and I'll get those to the town hall for the selectmen. Richard, I'll try to do it within the next day or so.
Okay, we're back to meeting every week now.
Okay, all right. Okay, 6:45.
Can we ask Adam if he knows where Ellen is? Because I think we should probably have her present.
Yes, Adam, can you hear us? Maybe we should do a chat to him.
Yeah, you want to do that? And I'll,
I will do that.
and Glenn, maybe a phone call? I don't know.
I can do a chat to Adam right now.
And it's not letting me do a chat because it appears to be blocked. So Glenn, if you could do that.
Yep.
I texted her.
Okay.
And it says it accepted my chat, so let's see.
Okay.
Well, this is being recorded, isn't it?
It is.
So we can probably move forward if it's being recorded.
Well, we can, but
Ellen sent me a message that she votes yes on the car dealership and that Adam is trying to reconnect her now.
Yeah, she's not on the list.
okay. Is she able to listen? Is she able to listen to us? Can she hear us?
Her message says she votes yes, and I can hear on Adam's computer, and I'm reconnecting. What she says.
Okay. All right, we'll go forward then. The first hearing that's scheduled is for a lot line adjustment at 129 Main Street and 131 Main Street. Tax maps were RU9 Lot 49 and U9 Lot 48. And Glenn, we have received a withdrawal on this one. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So there's no action required by us, is that right?
That is right as well.
Okay. Okay. The next hearing, I will introduce it, and then I'm going to step off, and Lynn will be chairing it because I am an abutter to that proposal. And this is for Jill and Jason Rigo at 109 Exeter Road, tax map R37, lot 25. And the legal notice reads that the planning board will be reviewing an application for a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling unit in a detached structure. So I'm going to turn my video off. I'm recusing myself, and Lynn, we'll turn it over to you.
Okay. And who would be speaking for the applicant? Is that you, Jason?
Hi,
Jay?
Lynn, it's me.
Hi, Jay. So Jay, this is the first time since the ordinance was passed that a conditional use permit for an accessory dwelling has come before the planning board. So please bear with us. There may be a few things that we decide to do or not to do because this is the first time through and we don't really have a procedure in place on this yet. But if you would please give us an idea of what it is you're trying to do. Do you have your plans and everything in a format that you can share with us?
I can do that. I have that.
Great, let's do that.
Okay, well, I got two plans. Can you see that plan?
Not
No.
yet.
No,
Seems
not
seems to lag a little bit though.
She has the plan.
Lynn?
I'm
Yep.
trying to share the screen right now.
Now, if we don't have it yet, we'll wait for you.
It's right on the thing too.
Ah,
How's that? Can you see that?
We can.
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
this is the septic plan that I did for the Rigos, and they asked me to do this earlier this year. At the time, I didn't realize it was a plan that had to go to the planning board. So I did follow through and did the septic plan for them. And and as you can see, it has state approval on this lower left-hand corner, and the town approval. Peter Broderick, Stanton approved it on the right-hand side. And I'm just going to zoom in just a little bit here. Here, bear with me here. It shows the existing 4-bedroom house in this area. And the existing septic system, the tank and the leach field is here. And the proposed new system, because the intent is to take this existing garage and convert it to a 2-bedroom apartment. And in so doing, we have to have wastewater disposal through the septic tank here into this end of the leach field, and a new septic tank there into the leach field here. So it's a bigger septic system in order to accommodate the 4-bedroom house plus the 2-bedroom apartment. So the existing driveway is here, which will stay the same. And in converting this to an apartment, the actual garage will be lost. And so their intent is a proposed garage in this area, which would have to be at least 20 feet off the front setback. And so this is a second plan that I took the same plan and I added some dimensions to it for the board to look at. If I can just get this here a little bit bigger for you. And I believe their proposal is to put an addition on the back of this existing building And B, it would be 87 feet from the edge of wetlands there. And the proposed barn, proposed garage would be 52 feet from the existing pond and wetlands associated with that pond. So that's my summary of it, and perhaps the owners can chime in for anything more.
Thank you, Dennis. Jay, would you like to add anything else about the plan? Jay?
We're here. We're just having trouble with the audio
Okay.
and visual.
Is this ours or somebody else's? It's not working. Scroll down if you want to see what people are. Yeah. Right here.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. Would Jay like to add anything to what Dennis has given us for information?
No.
Okay. Does the board have any questions? Do we have comments from Dennis and Glenn? We do have comments from both of you. Glenn, would you read yours, please?
Sure. I have that this is the first meeting for this request for conditional use permit, so the planning board should consider invoking jurisdiction. Since this is the first CUP we have reviewed, the board should determine what action we would like to take regarding approvals of such permits. Will we be filing a letter of facts and findings at the registry? Our ordinance does not require a recordable plan for a conditional use permit. I just informed the board that there was an error on the mailing address for one of the abutters, but we took care of that last week with an affidavit from that abutter stating that they waived their required notice for 10 days and that they were not contesting the hearing going forward this evening. My only comments for this are that the floor plan indicates that the ADU is 1,132 square feet in size. This excludes approximately 300 square feet shown on the floor plan as a utility room. This is marked as being unheated. There is, however, direct access to the area from the apartment. It is important to make the distinction that this is unheated space because if this area is included as part of the ADU, the unit exceeds the allowed size criteria. There are no exterior elevations provided by the applicant, so it's difficult to make the call that the garage remains appearing to be single family in nature. Perhaps photos of the structure can be provided. And actually, I spoke with the Regos yesterday, and they did send me photos. If the board is interested in seeing those, I can share those with the board.
Yes, please do.
Later, okay? And then other than
now, whenever.
All right. And other than my comments above, the items required by Article 206.4 are met with this application. So those are my comments.
Thank you. Dennis, would you like to read your comments to the record, please?
Certainly. Like I said, I was contacted earlier this year to prepare the septic design. At that time, I didn't realize that the review needed to go before the planning board, so I'll proceed with a review of the application as if I have not prepared the disposal plan. Obviously, I understand if the board wishes another engineer or someone else to review, they certainly could. But the comments I have are, the plan shows approved septic waste disposal system for the existing dwelling, and the proposed existing detached garage can be converted into an accessory dwelling unit. The disposal system is 100 feet from all wetlands on the site. The sketch shows a proposed 16-foot addition to the rear of the garage. Having made observations on the site and evaluating the function and values required under Article 202, Table A, I find that this easterly wetland has a function for groundwater recharge of 2 points and a wildlife habitat of 3 points. The required setback for a total of 5 points is 50 feet. My file shows that this addition will be 87 feet from the easterly wetland. Sediment control devices should be installed downslope from this proposed addition during construction and remain until the grade is completely stabilized. My second comment is that the plan shows a proposed garage on the west side of the driveway. This garage will need to be at least 20 feet from the northerly front lot line. There is a wetland pond on the site west of this proposed garage. Having made the observations on the site and evaluating the function and value requirements of Article 202 at Table A, I find that the wetland pond has a function for groundwater recharge of 2 points and a wildlife habitat of 3 points. The required setback for a total of 5 points is 50 feet. Therefore, the proposed garage must be at least 50 feet from the edge of the wetland associated with the wet pond. Sediment control devices should be installed downslope from this proposed addition during construction and remain until the grade is completely stabilized. And that completes my review of the application for the ADU and the proposed garage.
Thank you, Dennis. We also have comments from department heads. The fire department asked that the buildings comply with NFPA codes. The building inspector has no comment. The health inspector has no comment. And then I have the affidavit from the town clerk, Tammy Bakey, showing that the abutter is waiving her, that had the incorrect address on the notice, is waiving her 10-day for notification. So those are done. Does the planning board have any questions or comments, the planning board members?
Yeah, that's. I think probably one of the more important factors here is what the garage, or as someone else referred to it as, looks more like a barn, but regardless, that it continued to look like that, a garage, and that's why I was suggesting, Glenn Greenwood, that if you have pictures, if you could share them with us, that would be a very important factor in ruling on this.
Glenn, could you share your photos?
All right, let me see if I can share them.
And while we're waiting for Glenn, one of the abutter comments was
We haven't read the abutter comments yet.
Oh, okay. You want to bring those in now?
Well, we'll bring them in when we finish our when we get to talk to abutters and interested parties.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Noches en negro, noches en rojo.
And I presume these were drawings, architectural type drawings, or
No, they're photographs.
what did they photograph?
They photographed the existing.
Oh, I
Garage.
see. So that, yeah, so that would presumably the exterior would remain the same.
Exactly. Hmm.
I think that may be a key component before we have anyone else speak.
Excuse me, Lynn.
Yeah.
I'm being advised by the applicant that they're not able to stay on connection with the planning board. I don't know what we should do about this, so they can't participate. I don't know if we should put this on hold or up to you. They're sending me a message they cannot keep a connection with this meeting.
Okay.
Hi, Lynn. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, we're just getting bits and pieces. I mean, we're getting enough, but just in case Dave's got his phone and he could, call into you or whatnot.
Tried that number.
We tried the number, it wouldn't go through.
Goes to a voicemail.
Oh.
The number goes to a voicemail.
The one.
Yeah.
Ellen Faulkner's answered it.
Okay.
But-
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Danny.
Did everybody get a set of the plans? Because we sent out, 12 copies of the town.
Yes,
Yeah.
everybody's had the plans and they've been reviewed.
Yeah, they're cutting out again.
I don't seem to be able to share these photos.
Okay. So what is the will of the board? Do you want to put this temporarily?
Oh, here we go. You got them.
There they
Okay.
are. And how many do you have, Glenn?
3.
Okay.
This shows the best perspective, though, actually, of the building. And so I'm presuming, if the Regos can hear me, that the addition goes to the back of this structure.
That's what it shows on the plans.
Yes, that's the front and the side that visits the house, that faces the house. The windows face the house. The road is on the back side of that, of the building there, and the addition would be to the right-hand side on that picture.
So the garage door would be replaced with a window? Looking at the plans,
They would have to. I believe that's what it shows on the floor plan that they've submitted. Because where that garage is, it's proposed to be, I believe, a bedroom.
yeah,
I don't think they'd have a garage door entering the bedroom.
no, but, oh, there we go. Almost got another photo there. Lost Glenn.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Lynn, can you hear Dave? Me, this is
Yes, we can hear
Dave.
you.
All I'm catching, I just got the picture now, and we're just back online. Every 2 minutes we go off, it cuts out. No, the garage door is not gonna be there. It's gonna have vinyl siding on it, gray vinyl siding to match the house. No garage door, walk-through door, 3 egresses. It's on the plan. Everybody got a copy. I sent 12 copies to the town.
Right, so I think the concern here is that you said it'll continue to look like a garage. But
Yes.
but
No.
no
not gonna get
garage
rid of it.
door. It won't, presumably. I mean, if you call it a barn, there's a sort of a hayloft door up there on the
No,
front.
that won't be there either.
Oh, okay. So it won't look like a barn or a garage.
They'll have a window up there, but there won't be a barn. It's just a static window. I'm not sure what the question is.
Well, one of the requirements in the ordinance, let me bring that up, is that it continue to look like Hang on a sec. Article. Okay, so it says the ADU shall be designed so that the appearance of the property remains that of a single family use. When the dwelling unit is not a detached structure, there shall be one door, so forth and so on. But the idea is that it will continue to look like a single family. You're in a single family residential, so or a single family agricultural. So it needs to continue to look like a single family house. If you have two structures
Yes.
look like a house, then it looks like two houses. So if it looks like
Well, if the garage doors were facing the structure that's there now, the primary house, we're losing our connection again.
Yeah,
It was a joke.
The connection.
well, if we can't maintain it, we may have to reschedule this.
Seems like a lot of people are having problems.
Yeah, we could try turning off all our videos. That saves bandwidth because everybody's affected.
First, you can go to your computer.
Next one.
Well, if the applicant's not online, why don't we,
I'm back now, Lynn.
oh, you are? Okay,
We're back right to the minute. It only lasts 2 minutes
okay.
and then we're off.
My recommendation would be that the board members, the people who are on the Zoom, that we all go to stop our video because that uses up a lot of bandwidth, especially while we're sharing screens. Glenn, it would be great if you could get the other two pictures up there because we only see half the garage here. Well, a little more than half. But if you have something that shows another side.
The only two sides I have are the one that faces the home and the one with the garage door.
Okay.
And I think you've seen both of those.
We've only seen one photo.
We've only seen one photo.
Oh.
There was a brief flash of a second photo that showed a trailer or something in front of the garage, but it was more from the garage door end, from the driveway side, but not enough to see anything. Ellen looks like she's back with us.
Dave, are you still on the line?
Yep.
Okay.
For the time being.
Well, we're waiting for the second photo to come up. Why don't I read the letter from one of the abutters?
Yeah.
The letter was dated September 12th to the Kingston Planning Board, PO Box 716, Kingston, New Hampshire, 03848, in reference to 109 Exeter Road, detached ADU application. Dear Planning Board members, as an abutter to 109 Exeter Road, I am writing to neither speak for or against this application, but to address concerns of zoning I believe are pertinent here. I offer these comments and observations to the board to
Can't hear you, Lynn.
to consider as it deliberates the merits of the proposal for 109 Exeter Road. 1. First and foremost, the zoning district.
Lynn, can you wait a sec? I think we need to have them mute themselves.
I think you're right. Oh, they lost us again. I just got a text.
Are you seeing a second photo?
Yes,
Yes, thank
but
you.
Lynn, you're fading in and out too.
I am.
Your audio.
I think it's when other speakers come in on top of her.
You hear all the garbage.
Glenn, Ellen says you need to let her into the meeting.
I did already.
She says to let her in again.
My goodness, we've been doing this for a couple of months now. What, 3 or 4 months, and we haven't had this kind of technical difficulty yet.
Well, I know several people on Facebook today said they were having trouble with contact us.
Now, that could be.
Well, I know several.
Change that.
You got Ellen back.
Ellen's gone again too.
But maybe a Comcast thing and not anybody's computer in particular. So Glenn, why don't you take down the shared photos? I think we've seen them all.
All right.
And that will give everybody a chance to see everybody that's still here. There we go. So I guess,
Excuse me, Lynn.
yes.
Is there any way that somebody can forward that letter from the abutter via email to David? I have David on the phone. He couldn't hear a thing that was said about that letter. They have no idea what that's about, who's it from, anything on it. Can they get a copy of that? Because if we were at a meeting at the town hall, we would hand them that letter.
Correct.
Because they have a right to know what that says. He has no idea what that says.
We can certainly email it to him, but you were breaking up as you were speaking. So
Yeah.
am I breaking up? If I am, can somebody raise their hand?
No, I can hear you fine, Lynn.
Okay, thank you.
Ellen's back. So maybe we can forward him a copy of that letter.
You want me to forward a copy of the abutter letter to Mr. Rigo? Is that what you're saying?
Or Mr. What address?
Either Mr. Rigo or Mr. Clemens.
Email.
They'll have to give me their email address at some point. So I'd be happy to.
Hang on one second.
Oh, that's better, Peter.
Yeah, all right. I'm not, hang on, I can't lose it.
Why don't you just ask them to send something to the planning board so they're not giving out their email address publicly?
Yep.
And if they
There you
just
go.
send
Can you
me
send something to the
something,
planning board?
I'll send it right back to them.
You have that email address?
And Lynn, did anybody get my
Where address,
message that Mr. Clemens was trying to reach the board by phone? But I was trying to send, oh, you got that? Okay.
So what email address can he send this to, Ellen?
If he sends it to pb@kingstonnh.org, then I'll just reply to his email and he'll get the letter. It's pb as in planning board at kingstonnh, all one word, .org.
Got that? Dave?
Maybe at kingstonnh.org. So I guess our choices are to put this aside and move on to the next item on the agenda and come back to this immediately after, or to wait a little bit longer. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'm sorry, Linda. I'm sorry, I was just hanging up with Dave with that information, so I didn't hear what you said. I apologize.
What I said was, should we move on to the next hearing and come back to this immediately after to give people time to reconnect?
Absolutely, because I don't think it's fair to the applicant, because he can't follow anything. so he has no idea what's going on. He's gonna try to send an email right now.
Yeah.
I agree that we should do that. And hopefully we have better luck for the next hearing.
Yep. I just extended an invitation to them. If they wanted to come to use the Wi-Fi at my office, they could be in another room. So they could socially distance if they need to.
Okay.
So I guess, Glenn Koppelman, are you still with us? Do you want to move forward to the next hearing and we'll come back to this?
Sure, we can do that if the applicant is willing to go to the end of the meeting, and we'll try it and see if things are better then.
Well, the applicant's not here, so I'm
Oh,
not sure we can.
But I see his name on the screen, so I don't know. Maybe he can't hear us though.
We don't know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I know that we have at least one other abutter on the line. The Morses next door to me and across the street from the Rigos are online. So we will we'll take this up later and hopefully have better connections and can deal with it then. Okay. So the next hearing is for 3 New Boston Road, tax map R19 lot 10. Aaron Camerata and Ken Cornell. And the legal notice reads that the planning board will be reviewing a site plan application for office use, having recently received a variance from the Zoning Board of Adjustment allowing this type of use on site. No changes to the parking area are proposed. And again, there were plans distributed, so folks have those. I'm just going to get mine here. And we have comments from Glenn and some town departments and Dennis. I can just find Glenn's comments. All right. Okay, so this is the first public hearing. Glenn, I'm assuming that that we need to do jurisdiction on this. Have you reviewed it for completeness?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And if the board wants to invoke jurisdiction, we can do that now. If you'd rather hear a little bit about it first and then decide, that's your choice.
I make a motion, we invoke jurisdiction.
I'll second that. That's
all right. Motion by
pretty complete.
Motion by Lynn, second by Peter Coffin to invoke jurisdiction on this plan. And for anybody watching in the public, that means that the board considers it complete enough to move forward with the review process, and it also starts the 65-day statutory clock for making decision. All right. So we normally start this off by asking the applicant to do a presentation for us and tell us what the application is about. And can I ask who's speaking for the applicant?
Yeah, hi, Ken Cornell over here, and with my wife Erin. Erica. And we have Erica here as well, who actually is going to be speaking for us. She knows she's been more involved in what's been going on with it. You there, Erica?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. With all due respect, I'm going to keep my video off in an attempt to get through the presentation without technical difficulties. Thank you all for the opportunity to talk to you guys tonight. We've had great response from everybody that we've talked to, from all of the boards that we've been with. You guys have been incredibly helpful through this process, and I appreciate that greatly. Is there a question? Okay. So our proposal is to put an office space at 3 New Boston Road. It's currently the Archangel Woodworking Facility. It's the old church. It's located in a single family residential zone. We did receive zoning variance from the town in July. And if nobody has any opposition, I'll read a prepared statement if that works.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay, wonderful. CBS Medical Billing and Consulting is a well-recognized and highly regarded third-party medical billing and consulting company in the orthotic and prosthetic industry specifically. CBS first began its operations in September of 2010 and has grown each year since then. We have long-standing partnerships with our clients to increase their cash flow and manage their revenue cycles. We currently lease office space in Portsmouth and in Exeter and are looking forward to making Kingston our permanent home. In a time where a lot of companies are unsure of what their future looks like and are reevaluating their business plans, CBS has prepared for this reality. We began looking at work from home options 2 years ago, and with the onset of COVID-19, we're able to implement those options quickly and successfully. CBS is always looking towards the future and what that may look like for our company, for our team members, and for our communities. CBS currently employs 45 team members. We have implemented a successful work from home program, so most of our team members are not in the office on a regular basis. We currently have only, at the time of the writing, we had 3. I have to correct that. We do currently have 4 team members that work in the office regularly, and always with a member of management on site. Other team members will come into the office sporadically throughout the month to do trainings, printing, statement mailing, and restocking their supplies. It's our intent to maintain the work from home program, as it's been extremely successful for us and has allowed us to consider this property in Kingston, which we fell in love with the first time we saw it more than a year ago. Team members who choose to work in the office full time will be utilizing desk space to complete their work. Because most of our clients are spread out nationally, it's rare to have visitors to the site directly. We will have the occasional recruiter or IT person visit about once every couple of months. Office supply deliveries happen about once per month. These deliveries would be via box truck and would be during regular business hours, which were from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday. We anticipate holding quarterly staff meetings where all team members would be invited to the site, though most of them still prefer to stay remotely. During these times, it's our anticipation there would be roughly 30 to 35 members and vehicles on site. Staff meetings are held in the mornings or afternoons and are not customarily all-day events. But after not seeing one another, we do tend to hang out a little bit longer. There are no immediate proposed changes to the exterior of the building. The front steps have been identified as needing replacing, so that will be addressed. The ADA ramp is in need of minor repairs. There is a couple of loose balusters and a couple of ramp boards that are curling upward, which we are happy to repair, as this was an Eagle Scout project and we would like to preserve that piece of history. The site currently provides for numerous parking spaces and drivable space around the entirety of the building, which we are not proposing any changes to. The septic and well are shared with the abutter located at 1 New Boston Road, and there is an easement on file, and the document has been enclosed as part of our packet. The septic inspection went well with no findings of failing or deterioration. We propose that the use for the site will be minimal, and therefore septic and well appropriations are adequate. In conclusion, it is our belief the proposed use of this building is ideal considering its location in the community. The use will be minimal compared to other uses, and we are a responsible and respectful company. We welcome any questions you may have.
Okay, thanks, Erica. Can you clarify for us who you are? Do you represent the business that will be occupying the building?
I'm sorry, yes. I'm the Director of Human Resources and Business Development for CBS Medical Billing.
Okay, and I know Ellen is taking minutes here, so if you could provide your last name as well, so we have that for the record.
Sure, it's S-P-E-C-H-U-I-L-L-I.
Okay, I'm glad you spelled it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right. Why don't I read, we have a few comments from department heads. Let me do that, and then I'll ask Glenn and Dennis to weigh in with their reviews as well, and then we'll open it up to the board for discussion. And then after that, we'll open it up for public comment because this is a public hearing. So fire department has 3 items that the project must comply with NFPA, National Fire Protection Association codes. Second, they indicate that there's a need to update the existing fire alarm. and also to update the keys in the existing Knox box, which is the way that the police and fire can get access to the building in case of emergency and in case someone isn't there to give them access. It sounds as if from their comment that there's already a Knox box, it just needs updated keys.
Okay.
And if you have, Erica or Mr. Cornell, if you have questions about that, you can speak with the fire department. Highway department has 2 comments. One, all trees and plantings must be removed from town right of way. I don't see him on now. I did see Rich St. Hilaire on earlier, but I don't see him now. So apparently there are trees and plantings in the town right of way. I'm not familiar enough with it to know, but that's a comment from the highway department. And his second comment is maximum of feedback. Maximum of 2 to 30 curb cuts, 2 to 30-foot curb cuts onto New Boston Road. Oh, maximum of 2 30-foot curb cuts onto New Boston Road. So I don't know if he's saying there that that it meets that, or that it needs to be modified to that, or does anybody know?
Yeah, Glenn, I think that right now there's quite a large opening where you can drive in to the parking lot. Dates back to when it was a church parking lot, and there's we used to use it to start the school parade there, and it's just one very long curb cut. Basically, it's just asphalt to asphalt. So it's I think what he's saying is that there needs to be right now minimized entrance areas, so that they have 2 curb cuts going to probably either side of the building, and not having one large curb cut.
All right, somebody's speaking and it's causing a lot of background noise. Mr. Pasco, would you please put yourself on mute?
He is muted.
Well, he is now. He wasn't before. Thank you. And there's more background noise coming. I don't know where from. Okay.
I think Richard's got a question.
Richard, do you have a question?
The curb cuts were put there. The driveway was narrowed according to plan board requirements when the woodworking place went in there. And I think what Rich St. Hilaire is saying is he doesn't like the plantings that were a requirement of the planning board before. So that's something that may need to be worked out between the building and Rich St. Hilaire.
Well, there are 2 issues though, Richard. One is the plantings within the town right of way, and the second is the comment about the maximum of 2 30-foot curb cuts onto New Boston Road. They're 2 separate things.
But
and I'm not sure what
requirements of the planning board before that maybe Rich doesn't like, so may have to work that out.
Peter Baker, are you raising your hand?
Yeah, I think what they did down there, if you drive by and look at the establishment, in order to make those 30-foot curb cuts, they put in large planters, like a portable planter, like an urn, and they put plants in them. And they spaced those on the driveway, and I believe those are too close to the right of way. That's what they're saying, they need to be moved back. You can see them actually put them in there, and they actually shrunk down the driveway entrances to that church.
Agreed.
They did put those there, but I think they're in the right of way. That's what he's saying, they're gonna be moved back. You need to really gotta take a look at it, but they did close down those entrances.
Okay. All right,
They're
thank
not
you.
playing in the ground, they're planters. Big cement planters.
Okay, and I see Richard Wilson giving a thumbs up, so he is in agreement with what you just said. All right, well, I guess that's an issue that the board can take that up when it goes to its, when it gets to the end point here and a discussion about a decision is made. So you might want to keep that one in mind. And the third one from town departments is from the health department, and that one is a no comment. Okay. All right, Dennis, would you like to do your comments?
Okay. I just looked at the plan. I didn't really go to the site, but I reviewed the site plan that was conducted in 2013 for the Archangel Realty LLC. A few minor changes to the site were required at that time. Compare that to this plan in 2020. I find that those changes were made, and there doesn't appear to be no changes since. There are no proposed site changes. So for the proposed use, I have no engineering comments or suggestions for a change at the site. The board may question about signage and if there would be any changes to the site lighting. I didn't really look at the issues that Rich is bringing up as far as the plantings out in front, but driving by, I think I recall that those are movable, and I think that they could be moved and put in a place that meets the requirement for not only the setback from the right of way, but also reducing or adapting the access, the entrance to the requirements that Rich is asking for. So I think that can be made, can be done as part of any conditions that the board requires for this. That's my comments.
Okay, thanks, Dennis. Glenn.
Yes. So I have that this is the first public hearing to review a proposal to change the use of the Archangel workshop, woodworking shop into office space. The applicant secured a variance for this use change from the ZBA in July of this year. The board should consider invoking jurisdiction over this plan. And then the following are my comments upon reviewing the site plan prepared for CBS Medical Billing and Consulting LLC.
Glenn?
Yes.
I'm sorry. I think I skipped the process where we didn't vote on the jurisdiction. We had a motion and a second, though. So let me do that.
I think that would be a good thing to take care of.
Yes, because we have that hanging open right now, and I just realized that we didn't finish it off. So I think I was asking for further discussion and we got on to something else. But it was a motion, Lynn, it was by you, and then Peter Coffin was second. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Okay. Ellen, if you're still with us, could you call the, oh, you are. Could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Glenn Kopelman,
Yes.
Peter Baiki. Did Peter answer?
Yes, I had unmuted.
Okay. Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Robin DeGuay,
Yes.
Richard Wilson,
Yes.
and me. Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous. We've invoked jurisdiction on the plan. Okay, Glenn, now you can do your comments.
All right, so first comment, the proposed uses, the proposal is for the use of the existing structure for offices for medical billing. The majority of time 8 employees will be on site, and it is anticipated that quarterly staff meetings will be held that will have up to 45 people on the site for less than a full day. There are 21 delineated parking spaces on the plan, but as a former church, the site can handle many more than twice that number of vehicles. There is an easement for water and septic on this site with the abutting parcel. The applicant has submitted a septic system inspection report detailing the system to be in good working condition. No change to the building is proposed. So I have a comment that a stormwater management plan seems unnecessary. The proposed hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is a note on the plan presently. Monthly deliveries are anticipated. I have a question, is the existing dumpster enclosed? I don't know that it is, but it is in the location, I believe, that was previously approved by the planning board. There are plantings along the abutting property lines to residential use but the buffer areas are less than 50 feet in width. But these, again, were the buffers that were required for the previous woodworking facility. Will the location of the existing sign be changed? Because if so, the new location should be shown on the plan. But if they intend on just putting their sign where the existing one is, no changes are necessary. And existing impervious lot coverage should be provided as a plan note. That's something that we're asking for as part of our compliance with MS4. So it would be a good piece of information to have.
And there is a significant amount of impervious cover there.
On this site. Yes.
Yep. Okay, thank you, Glenn. I'll open it up to the board for comments, and I have one question. I don't know if Erica, you can answer, or Mr. Cornell, you could answer. The woodworking shop, is that no longer functioning?
It will no longer be functioning, correct?
Okay, so this business will replace that one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board? With regard to signage, is there? I forgot when I looked at the plan, I didn't remember if I saw signage on there.
There's signage on there that for a 2x4 existing sign. We're not proposing any changes to that restriction.
Okay, so the existing sign will just be changed to reflect the new business?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, and one of the comments that was brought up by, I think it was Dennis, asked if any proposed lighting changes to the exterior?
No, all lighting would conform with the ordinances as required.
And would it be as it exists now?
We're still in discussions about that. The one that's there is a little bit stronger than we would like to have, so we're looking at that currently.
Okay.
The current one there does meet lighting ordinances now.
Okay. Obviously, you mentioned that there's an ordinance for that, so you're aware of that, which is good. It requires all shielded, downcast lighting, and because you are in the midst of a residential area, if there is any way that you can keep the lumens down and the glare down, I'm sure that the residential neighbors would appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah. And just to make you aware that whenever there's an occupancy change in a business, it requires a new certificate of occupancy. So you'd need to do that through the building inspector in the town office.
Yes, thank you.
And that triggers inspections by fire and building inspector and so forth, just to make sure things are up to code and all of that.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. I'll ask the board one more time, and then I'm going to open it for public comment. Okay. If there's anyone in the public who wishes to ask a question or make a comment, this would be a good time to do that, and you can do so by just raising your hand or okay, it appears to be radio silence on public comment. Okay. All right, we'll close public comment on this then and bring it back to the board. What is the board's pleasure with this application?
I'd like to make a motion.
Peter, we're having trouble hearing you, and I see Robin had her hand up.
Oh, go ahead, Robin.
Okay, Robin.
I was also going to make a motion that we approve sorry, I'm reading at the same time I'm doing this, the proposed change of use for 3 New Boston Road, tax map R19 lot 10, with conditions 1 through 10 as noted in Glenn Greenwood's letter on 8/6/20.
I'm not sure, Robin, we need to include all of those.
Okay.
I would think that the conditions might be, number one, move the potted plantings out of the town right of way to meet the wishes of the road agent. 2, provide impervious lot coverage as a plan note. 3, lighting to conform to town ordinances. And 4, receive a new certificate of occupancy. Did I miss anything that's critical?
Ellen, and unmute yourself, please.
Sorry, thank you. Usually we don't add that they need a certificate of occupancy in the motion. That's something they'll need from the building inspector, but that's up to you.
No, we can take that out.
One of the conditions that, or at least the proposed conditions from Glenn's list was about the buffer, and I'm not sure whether Glenn was saying that the existing buffer was sufficient or that a 50-foot buffer should be required there.
No, I believe it is. I believe it is sufficient.
Okay. And that should not be a condition then. All right, good.
So the conditions are pretty much as Lynn has just outlined them. Is that correct, Robin?
Yeah, the only other one was about the impervious lot coverage, unless Lynn mentioned that and I missed it.
I mentioned that.
Okay, sorry, I just missed it.
That's okay.
If I can, I have moved plantings out of the right of way, impervious coverage on the plan, and lighting compliance. Was there anything I missed that you said, Lynn?
No.
Shouldn't we have some statement about them meeting the requirements of the fire department?
Yes.
Getting.
Isn't that part of the CO process?
Yeah, they will have to have an inspection by the fire department.
You're right, they will.
Yeah, it's all part of the CO.
So Robin, is that your motion?
Is that like a hybrid motion? How does that work? Lynn and I submit a joint motion.
Well, no. You can accept Lynn's comments as a friendly amendment to your motion.
So accepted.
I'll second it.
Second by, oh, Peter, sorry, you were.
That's okay. That's okay.
Right. Motion by Robin, second by Lynn. Further discussion. All right, Ellen, could you call the roll, please?
Sure. Glenn Kopelman,
Yes.
Robin Duguay,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Richard Wilson,
Yes.
Peter Baiki,
Yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
and me. Yes.
Okay, so that's unanimous. Thank you, folks,
Thank you very much.
and good luck with the business.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, the next hearing is the applicant is.
Can you see on your screen, Glenn, that the Clemenses are back?
Peter, you're breaking up.
Yeah, he was asking if we can check in with the previous group, Jason and company, and go back to that hearing perhaps, or do you want to?
I don't see them on the screen.
He's on the screen on my screen. Linda Clemens.
Linda
He's
Clemens.
there.
Oh, there we go. I was looking for Jason. Okay. There he is. All right. So how is your, you can unmute yourselves. How is your connection now?
It's a lot better. A lot better.
Okay. All right. Is the board comfortable then if I turn this back to Lynn and you can deal with this hearing now?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Lynn, I'm going to sign off for now.
And
I'll go back to where we were.
Lynn?
Yes?
Just one thing. I think that we probably ought to, let's see, what did I said down?
I was going to read the abutter letter.
Yeah, I know we're still doing butter letters, but I think we probably should, before we forget until later, invoke jurisdiction. I think the plans are complete enough to do that.
Do we have a motion to invoke jurisdiction?
I'll so move.
Second?
Second,
All those, Ellen, would you please call the roll?
Sure. That was Peter and Peter.
Right.
Okay, sure. Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Peter Baiki,
yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Robin DeGuay,
Yes.
Richard Wilson,
Yes.
me, and Glenn's not here. Okay. That's good.
Okay. So I'm going to start the letter again because it was in the, I think we may have lost the applicant in the middle of the letter. So in reference to 109 Exeter Road detached ADU application. Dear planning board members, as an abutter to 109 Exeter Road, I am writing to neither speak for nor against this application, but to address issues of zoning that I think are pertinent here. I offer these comments and observations for the board to consider as it deliberates the merits of the proposal for 109 Exeter Road. 1. First and foremost, the zoning district for this application is single-family residential agricultural. As such, conformance with the rules and regulations for the zone is important in maintaining the character and nature of the district. 2, the existing garage being proposed for conversion to an accessory dwelling unit currently looks like a barn, a traditional accessory type structure. The proposal shows redesigning this building to look more like a house. Will this give the appearance of 2 homes on one single family residential property? Our ADU ordinance under purpose and objectives states Article 206.2D to retain the appearance of a single family property, whether the accessory dwelling unit is contained within, connected to, or detached from the primary residential structure. 3, the structure proposed for the ADU is currently used for the owner's construction business. Will the new building presently under construction, shown on plan as proposed garage, now be used for this purpose? If so, I would respectfully ask the board to review the conformance of this business and the new structure to the zone and the residential home occupation ordinance, Article 207. Number 4, it is possible that the occupants of the ADU could be bringing in additional business to this property. I would appreciate the board addressing this and discussing the impact of potentially multiple businesses and residences on one single family residential lot. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on this proposal and for your consideration of my testimony. Sincerely, Glenn Koppelman.
Eileen, can I respond?
Yes, you may.
So we already have the building permit for the garage, which is already moving forward. We've gone through this with the town already with the business or whatnot. It's basically to clean up the yard. So the trailers that you see that in the pictures will be in the new garage. And basically the existing garage won't look too much different. We're probably gonna have to relocate the garage door to the overhang to keep that appearance and put a window where the garage door is now so we can access light in that space that we're finishing for the ADU. So, I mean, you pull in my driveway, you'll know which one the house is. It's the big one out back. We're not trying to do anything out of the ordinary. Be a nice place to have for my mother and, mother-in-law and father-in-law to stay with us. You're not gonna see much of a change. It'll actually just spruce it up.
The siding will be improved. Besides that, and the roof, it'll have a new roof. Besides that, there won't be any structural differences besides a window where the garage door is and windows on the other side. I'm not sure what we're looking for to look like a garage. My garage has 3 or 4 windows in it here where I live now.
So the garage door will keep, so it looks like a garage, and we're just gonna put it to the side of where it's located currently under the overhang.
Would you also please address the comment about perhaps having another business located on this property?
All I have for business now, Green Ride is Green Ride USA. It's 1 vehicle. I've downsized from 8 to 1, and my business doesn't happen on the property. My business is most of it, 90% of it is at Logan Airport. So I don't believe you'll see any business running out of there by me, except for me leaving in the morning and to go to work.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any abutter comments?
Hi, Justine Morse here. I just have a quick question about the habitable living space. From what I understand, it's supposed to be in-law only. And does that have the potential down the line to be tenant use?
Were you looking for me to address that?
No.
Okay.
So, could you also please give your address because we need that for the record?
Sure, I'm at 110 right across the road.
Thank you. The new statewide ADU law says that any legal apartment, in-law or not, is now considered an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit. And yes, it can indeed be rented. And ADUs are permitted in every residential zone in a town.
That's interesting. Okay, we're new to the town within the past year, so we're just trying to feel things out, see how things work, and ask some,
No problem. It's state law, and the town rewrote our in-law apartment law to become an accessory dwelling unit ordinance to comply with the new state RSA.
Is it to ask the real quick question? Is it based on acreage or the capacity of dwellings? How does that work with the state law? I'm a little.
The state law says that any residential zone must allow for accessory dwelling units on each property. Now, obviously, they still have to have the same setbacks, and if you check with the town, Article 206, the entire accessory dwelling unit ordinance is there, and it's available online under reports and documents.
Okay. All right. Quick question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Is there any other comment from an abutter or the general public? See none, we'll close public comments and return to a general discussion of the board. Any thoughts of board members? Perhaps what we might do is, because our ordinance reads that a proposed ADU which will alter the exterior of any building that will be a detached ADU will require an application for a conditional use to the planning board, and then the conditional use permit under 206.6B says a conditional use permit may be granted by the planning board for construction of an ADU, provided that the board determines all of the ADU requirements outlined in 206.4 herein have been met. So perhaps we should go through 206.4 and make certain that this proposal meets those requirements. Does that make sense, Ellen?
I missed some of the previous earlier part of this meeting. Did you read department comments at that time?
We did.
Okay, thank you. That's all I want to know. Thanks.
We did. So the ADU requirements are: the proposed use must conform to the dimensional requirements of a single family lot and meet all existing building requirements. Comment?
I just have a question based on Glenn's comments that were provided earlier relative to the square footage and the proportion to the main residence versus the accessory dwelling. And I'm not clear on where that is currently.
Glenn?
You're on mute, Glenn.
I wanted to make clear in my comments that there is a portion of the structure, the detached structure, that as unheated space would generally be conceived to not be part of the apartment. And I didn't want anyone on the board to not be aware that that space was there. It does show on the floor plan that's been submitted, but it is it's customary that unheated space is not counted in the square footage of a standard apartment or dwelling unit when you're making those calculations. And I wanted to make sure the board was aware of that distinction with this particular application.
Which is separate from the proposed addition.
Yes, it would be, well, it's in the building where the proposed addition is going.
But on the other side.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So that's really under letter
Ellen has
E.
her hand up.
Go ahead, Ellen.
Would that be something that if the board was approving the project, that they just want to see like written on the plan someplace as a clarification for future?
It is on the plan.
It is? And it says that, perfect. I'm sorry. I
Yes.
didn't know I'd be voting this evening. I didn't look.
No problem.
Yeah,
Okay.
it is on the plan, and I know that with the multiple listing service, they have a definition of, oh my God, of gross living area, and any unit of a home that does not have a ceiling, a floor, insulation in the walls, or heat is not considered part of the living space of a home, according to the multiple listing service definitions. So my assumption would be that storage space in the back that's unheated, even though accessible from the unit, would be considered by an appraiser or bank or multiple listing service as non-livable space.
A good example would be if this had been a garage that continued to be used as a garage and the upstairs had been converted to an ADU, the garage wouldn't count. Even if it was heated, the garage would not count as part of the ADU for area.
And if I could clarify, I wasn't trying to say that it should be added in. My thought was then rather have that it says, right now the note says unheated. I think the note should say to remain unheated, so that not the people who own it now, but in the future, they don't turn it into living space thinking that why not? So nothing against the current people, they've been very clear on what they're doing, but for the future, if you have a plan, just because it says unheated doesn't mean it has to remain unheated. That's certainly just be a condition to just add that phrase in above this, and that would be fine.
Okay. Letter B says accessory dwelling units in a multifamily structure are prohibited. And that's not the case here. C, the single family dwelling shall not be located within an innovative zoning development. That's not the case. D, the ADU shall be designed so that the appearance of the property remains that of a single family use. When the dwelling unit is not in a detached structure, there shall be one door located along or through an adjoining wall to the primary living area, and one egress shall be located on the side or in the rear of the building. But this is a detached structure. How do we feel about this structure conforming to the look and feel of a single family?
I think Jason pointed out that they were going to, instead of just taking off the garage door, they'd move it as long as there was still a garage door, the driveway went to a garage door, as long as it still looked like a garage, had that primary look. And I know my garage has windows too, so I know garages can have windows, but the garage door is, I think, a key factor there. Without that, it's a house. So I think that should be on the plan. That and maybe part of this conditional use permit is that that the garage continue to look like a garage and have a garage door, even if it's not functional.
Right.
If it's added to the outside of the building, on a roller track or something, and it doesn't actually have a door behind it. It's the outward appearance that counts in this case.
So sort of put a barn door on.
Yeah, put a barn door on. Yeah, a faux barn door.
Okay. F, we went through E. F, either the principal residence to which an ADU is to be added or the ADU shall be or continue to be owner occupied. Is that on the plan? Probably doesn't need to be. G, up to 2 bedrooms are permitted in the accessory dwelling unit, complies with that. Off-street paved or gravel parking shall be provided for at least 4 vehicles. I, the structure and lot shall not be converted to a condominium or any other form of legal ownership distinct from the ownership of an existing single-family dwelling. J, the applicant for a conditional use permit to construct an accessory dwelling unit shall make adequate provisions for water supply and sewage disposal for the accessory dwelling unit in accordance with RSA 485-A:38, but separate systems shall not be required for the principal and accessory dwelling units. In order to comply with this paragraph and prior to constructing an accessory dwelling unit, an application for approval for a sewage disposal system shall be submitted in accordance with RSA 405-A as applicable. The approved sewage disposal system shall be installed if the existing system has not received construction approval and the approval to operate under current rules or predecessor rules, or the system fails or otherwise needs to be repaired or replaced. If deemed necessary by the health officer, evidence shall be provided in the form of certification by a state of New Hampshire licensed septic system designer. K. K, the owner shall provide a floor plan of 1/4 inch scale to the 1/4 inch to the foot scale of the dwelling and proposed ADU. L, the owner shall provide a sketch plan drawn to scale of the lot with existing and proposed structures, setbacks, and parking shown. M, evidence must be submitted to the building inspector that all building requirements can be met. And we've went through before. O, an ADU proposed in one of Kingston's historic districts, and this does not apply to that. So does the board feel that they meet all of the all of the bullet points in the regulation?
Yeah, I think if the plan is modified to show a garage door or barn door, since the structure could be either, that would meet the requirements. I think that would alleviate the problem of having apparently two houses on one lot. So I think that should be a condition, and it should be on the plan.
Okay.
But it can be a conditional approval of the conditional permit.
So at this point, we're seeing to remain unheated and must have a garage door. The
Garage or barn door, yeah.
Or, yeah, garage barn door. The only other thing that we should probably talk about was from Glenn's comments about whether or not we should record a fact and finding on this decision at the Registry of Deeds. Thoughts?
I think that's probably a good idea, so that it needs to be recorded. I know the old ADU ordinance required that the deed be recorded once an ADU is approved with Rockingham County, and I think that we probably should continue doing that with the conditional use permits, so that it does convey with the property. So, as you know, Glenn.
I just think it protects the property owner by doing it. In case there's ever a loss of town records or anything else, there's never going to be a question that this was legitimately approved and therefore can pass on in the future. So I just think it protects them.
I think it not only protects them in that way, but it also protects them as far as future sale of the property and mortgages on the property and that sort of thing. So we've facts and findings. So it looks like we've got about 3 conditions. If somebody wanted to make a motion, are we ready for a motion?
I'm ready to make the motion if you can just, I didn't write those conditions down. So I'll move that we grant the conditional use permit with the conditions that the converted garage have either a garage or barn type door on the outside to give the appearance of a garage or barn.
And that it's referenced in the plan?
And
Remain
reference,
unheated?
oh yeah, and then the second one was the unheated area should be referenced in the plan as being permanently unheated and not part of the ADU.
Glenn Greenwood, do we need to put the filing of a facts and findings document in this motion?
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to say just that a letter of facts and findings will be prepared and recorded.
Okay.
Okay, that was the third one. So are we okay on the wording of the amendment to the plan that the area remain unheated and remain not part of the ADU?
Or not livable space.
Remain, yes. Not livable space. Not occupiable space, something words to that effect. Anybody want to chip in with what they think is most appropriate wording there? Glenn?
That the space is to be used for storage.
Yes.
I think if you say, you know,
Unheated storage space, not for occupancy.
yeah, not associated with the ADU.
Yeah. Okay, that's sufficient.
Do we have
Storage space not to be occupied or be considered part of the ADU. All right. So, and then the facts and findings will be prepared and recorded with Rockingham County Register of Deeds.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
No, I'm just looking through my notes to make sure there wasn't, oh, hang on.
You're on. Oh, no, you just went mute.
I'm just double checking through my notes to make sure there wasn't another, something that somebody said. Oh, Lynn, I think you said, you read section E that said shall be or continue to be owner occupied, and you then added should be a note. I don't know if you want it to be,
but it's in the ordinance, so I don't see any reason for there to be a note.
I remember someone had said something, that's all.
Yeah.
So if you don't need that, then those were the only comments.
Ellen, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Robin DeGuay,
Yes.
Peter Bakey,
Yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Richard Wilson. Did Richard say yes? Richard, you're muted.
Give a thumbs up, Rich.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And myself is yes, so that's 6. Okay.
Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot. We appreciate it.
And since this isn't really part of that hearing, I wanted to address the whole idea of the home occupancy ordinances that can be addressed independently and really doesn't have to be included in this motion, or in the motion we did. That's why we didn't include that. That's I think that regardless of who's doing it, the requirement is that it's not visible. If you're using home occupation in a single family residential or agricultural, that it's not visible to the outside, basically is the rule. So that can be addressed separately if it ever comes up as an issue.
Thank you. And I'll turn this back over to Glenn Koppelman.
Okay. Thank you, Lynn. All right. So the next hearing is actually a design review, and it is for the applicant, New Hampshire Sustainable Communities, LLC. And the property is 225, 229, and 231 Route 125, which incorporates tax maps R29, tax map R29 lots 2, 4, and 6. And the legal notice reads that this is an application for a design review for an affordable housing development. This is a non-binding review of a conceptual plan located on a specific parcel of land. So just to remind everybody, the board and the applicant and the public, that a design review is is just that. It's a conceptual discussion between the applicant and the board. We can take public comment on it and questions. The purpose of a design review is to give the applicant feedback and guidance so that should they choose to come back in with a formal plan, they will have the benefit of having thoughts and ideas from the board about the submitted, about the proposal that they're looking at. And the other thing about a design review is that there are no decisions made, so the board won't be taking any votes on this. And the discussion is completely non-binding, non-binding on the part of the board and non-binding on the part of the applicant. And because it's design review, it cannot be continued. So it starts and it ends tonight. And the next step would be, if the applicant chooses to come back in with a formal application and a proposal for us to review at a later date. So with that, who will be speaking on behalf, Mr. Frankowitz? Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't we ask you to give us an overview of the proposal? And I know there are a couple of different concepts here. And is there a way that you can share your screen and walk us through the concept plans?
Yes.
Great. Hopefully the bandwidth and the technology will cooperate.
Can you see it now? I've got the tax map up right now.
Yep.
My hand cursor.
Yep.
So I'm Scott Frankowitz from New Hampshire Land Consultants. The applicant is Shane Carter, who's on as New Hampshire Sustainable Communities. The plans we're going to show you tonight is a compilation of a bunch of available data from Granite and different places like that. There's no survey completed yet. There was a wetlands investigation done, but no flagging by Mark West of West Environmental. So what the plans represent are his sketches, and then with the topo that we got from Granite, the best representation we could do without locating wetlands. So what the applicant has under contract currently is lot 2, 4, and 6. It's the combination of those is about 78 acres. About 50 of that acres is uplands. And an unusual part of this is, the board may know, is there was a 50-foot strip left along Route 125 in 1978, and it was classified as Class 6. So part of this application would have to be to upgrade that area to upgrade frontage to the lots. Now I'm going to go up to the first concept. We did submit several concepts. Glenn reviewed them, and a couple of them are shot right out. So I won't go through all the concepts. I'll go through this one, which is it meets the unit count of 8 or less units per building. I understand there can be 3 to 8 units per building by the regulations. So I'll start at the bottom. Down here is the intersection of Route 125 and Route 107. And the 50-foot right-of-way is right here going up along 125. It's about 2,000 feet from the intersection to this area where we're saying emergency access gate. And with that, we have started conversations with DOT, and as everybody knows, it's a limited common access right-of-way. So there is a big process that we would have to go through if that was even feasible to have that. But we're showing it and being open. We did have a conversation with them, and they gave us what the process was that we would have to go through to even entertain that. What this plan shows, like I said, are 8 units per building. A couple up top are not 8, but these are all 8. That's 54 units. And then as you go up, there would be another 56 on the bottom, 64 on the top, for a total of 120. And the way we're coming up with the 120 is that each lot is able to handle 40 units, which is the maximum that Kingston allows. the lot itself would handle 200 units, but because of the regulation, 40 units is the maximum per lot. And we aren't showing them on all the lots because the lots would be combined. So we're hoping that the result would be that you could have 120 units on it just as a combination, and however they fit on the 3 lots. I'll go to the next concept that I just actually put together in the last few days. And this too has the road going from Route 107 along 125 with the access, with the potential emergency access up top. And this would require variances, as I think the whole plan is going to require a couple variances and a conditional use permit. But this one would require a variance because we're showing bigger buildings. They're more centrally located on the 3 lots, but they're bigger buildings, 24 units per building, 3 stories with parking. And there's 5 of those for 120 units. And like I said, we started the conversations with DOT, and we wanted to come to the board to get input from the board before we started down any of the path. The DOT process is probably at least a year. And if that was something that the town would support, a second access, then that would be something that we would include in our discussion, obviously, with DOT. And I don't know that it makes sense to go over the other concepts that I submitted, as they don't meet the requirements, but I can just breeze through them real quick and explain why they don't. This one was a combination of single units and 8-unit buildings. This doesn't meet the zoning. We would have to get a variance to do single family. That's not allowed in the multifamily regulations. This again had a mix of 3s and 4s and 2s, a little combination of everything, and with the minimum being 3 units per building, this concept as well would require a variance for a number of units per building. Those are the concepts I included, I believe, in the package, and I'd like to turn it over to the board or turn it over to Shane if Shane would like to say anything. And with us tonight as well are the real estate agents for the properties, Donna Carter and Heidi Roy as well. And I believe, I'm not sure, but maybe some of the owners are on here as well. To turn it over to the board.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Unless the board wants to continue looking at the plans, I'm going to ask Scott to unshare his screen, just so we can get back to seeing everybody on the screen. And we have, except for the one you just, the new one, Scott, that you brought tonight,
Yeah.
The board has copies of all the other ones that you went through. So they have that to refer to if they need to. And if we get to a part of the discussion where they want you to bring it back up, we can do that.
Okay.
Did any of your colleagues want to say anything at this point before I bring it back to the board? Ms. Roy, I don't know. No, okay. And Donna Carter, I don't see. Okay, all right. Well, if at some point during this process you want to, just raise your hand and we can recognize you. Okay, so I know Glenn and Dennis did comments, yes, on these?
Yes, I did some comments.
Okay, Glenn, why don't we walk through yours then at this point?
All right. I only had a few. So my opening comments is that it's a design review hearing regarding proposed multifamily housing in the C1 zoning district and is a non-binding discussion for which abutters have been notified. The board does not invoke jurisdiction in this instance because the discussion is non-binding in nature. So I just, my first comment is that the ordinance allows up to 8 units of multifamily housing in each structure. The ordinance does not allow single family construction in the C1 zone. So that's why I called out concept 2 as not being compliant with zoning. bit more convoluted in the zoning application. Oh, it is the zoning's application to conceptual number 3. Multifamily is defined by state law as 3 or more units, and duplexes do not qualify as multifamily, so they would have to be prohibited in the C1 zoning district, and that's something that Scott alluded to in his discussion. Then according to section 1087C3, a multifamily dwelling or a multifamily development shall have a minimum contiguous frontage on a town road or street of 150 feet. Roadway leading into the site is not a town road. Oh, well, that's not, I've spoken with Rich St. Hilaire about this. So that's not really true. The road leading into the site is a town road. It's a class 6 town road, not a class 5. So officially, we can't grant building permits there. But another wrinkle is that the town right of way for a town road is 60 feet, and the right of way associated with this access road is 50 feet. The ordinance states that a multifamily development shall not have more than 40 dwelling units. However, with these separate parcels under individual ownership, the number of units is differently dependent upon the upland soil on each lot, up to a maximum of 40 units per lot. And so it's a strange wrinkle in our ordinance that limits, it gives a density allowance, and then to tell you what the density can be, and then limits that number at 40, regardless of the number of acres you have on your site. So this is an issue that I think that the board needs to talk about, because it's easier to do this development if all the lots are merged together as one lot. But if they merge them, when they merge them all together as one lot, then I believe the constraint would be, our ordinance says only 40 units are allowed on a lot that would be in excess of 75 or 80 acres. So that's a really difficult issue that resides in our ordinance. And then 50% of the dwelling units in a multifamily development must be workforce housing as defined by RSA 674-58 2 and RSA 674-58 4. That means that half of these units have to be workforce housing, and associated with that are all the deed restrictions that come along with workforce housing allowances. So it would put a degree of and another level of review requirement on the board on this, our first look at such a development in town. And I wanted to make that clear.
Is the applicant aware of that workforce requirement?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Before I go to Dennis, Glenn, can you shed any light on what that whole 50-foot wide access versus 60-foot requirement for a town road? What kind of an obstacle does that pose for this development?
It would mean, first off, because it's a class 6 road, the Board of Selectmen would have to lay out the road as a class 5 road. So there would be a vote there at the town level.
Town meeting level?
I would have to research that further.
Oh, okay.
Because some towns have passed at some point in their history a provision that allows the Board of Selectmen to lay out class 6 roads as class 5 roads. If the town hasn't done that, then I think that it does indeed need a town vote. I'm not sure.
I see Ellen shaking her head no, and I'm not sure what she's shaking it no to.
I don't recall that vote, but I would agree with Glenn that it would have to be researched.
Okay.
It would have to have been before my time.
So that's a part of this question that needs to be researched and reviewed. And then the fact that we presently require a 60-foot right-of-way, I think perhaps that right-of-way measurement is only seen in our subdivision regulations, which would make it a waiver. I don't think that the wording about our right-of-way shows anywhere in our zoning ordinance, which would require ZBA action. So I think it's only regulation issue, the difference between a 50-foot right-of-way and a 60-foot right-of-way.
Glenn, do you know what the regulations were in 1978 when the state allotted that as a 50-foot right-of-way? Obviously, their intention was to make this land accessible since they were closing off access from 125. They didn't want to landlock the remaining lots. So
I wouldn't make the assumption that when the state did this, they fully researched and understood the town's requirements.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was wondering what the distance was, but do you think the right-of-way then was designed to be a private sort of right-of-way for private access to those things? Because if there's 3 lots in there and they're only accessible through that state designated right-of-way, either somebody would have to own all 3 lots and have a private road, or that didn't meet town standards, or the town would have to allow, as you pointed out by voting, to upgrade that to a class 5 road so that those lots could be used. I just was wondering if you know what the status was when it was decided. If, as you say, it was only the 60-foot was only put in as a ordinance, not an ordinance, but
It's a regulation.
A regulation for site plan review, then it should be fairly easily resolved.
Okay. Well, obviously that's something that the applicant will need to work on if they choose to move forward with this as a proposal and a formal application. I know that the board has seen at least a couple of different proposals for this property over the years, and the issue of the access was a big part of the discussion and probably contributed to proposals not moving forward for some reasons, including access, I suspect. But while I think of it, I had one question before I go to Dennis, and it's really just a comment to the applicant. There's potentially a fair amount of traffic, most of it residential, not commercial traffic, but coming out to one point at that intersection. And this question came up in previous proposals as well, and that is where that road comes out. It doesn't provide for a lot of queuing space at the light at 125. And so, if a proposal came in, I know that I would want to see some sort of analysis, traffic analysis or whatever, showing that there's enough queuing space there, because on a previous proposal, they actually had shown a different access route around and coming up further on Depot Road to allow for further queuing. But that involved buying properties, and it did all kinds of other things. So just while I think of it, just wanted to make that comment. Dennis, did you have things to say on this?
Actually, I did not send any report, but I just a few comments. There really isn't at this point in time much engineering work done, and I'm sure Scott is looking at trying to develop more engineering for the plan, depending on which concept he chooses. But I do recall that previous work on this property, there was issues with the wetlands. And there is a lot of wetlands there. I would think that you make sure that investigate any vernal pools that are on this property, because even the upland areas that are upland are questionable, or not questionable, but marginal wetlands. They would be somewhat poorly drained soils and probably some areas that could could be considered vernal pools and setbacks, and I know the Conservation Commission would be concerned about those type of issues, and the type of wetlands, just to be sure it meets the wetland requirements for based on the table A, not make sure that it meets the requirements for setbacks for the wetlands. As far as the highway access is concerned, I mean, you've talked about that. Length of cul-de-sac regulations for the town have to be met. I think that, you know, as an emergency access, I'm not sure how that's going to work with the town, but I guess whatever requirements are made, the density is looking for maximum density. So typically when maximum density is required, it's certainly a concern when waivers and zoning issues are proposed. So so at this point in time, I really don't have any other comments that I can share with the board until we get further plans.
Okay, thank you, Dennis. We do have a few department comments. I'm going to read those and then I'll open it up to the board for more discussion. Fire department, there are 5 bullet points. The first one must comply with National Fire Protection Association codes. Second, must comply with fire protection regulations, Article 1008 in the town book. 3, must comply with an FPA regulation for fire access. Number 4, monitored fire alarm for all buildings with 4 or more units is required. And the 5th one, pre-construction meeting is required upon approval from planning board. So that's something just to keep in mind when, you know, if and when we get to a formal application and an approval. Highway department has 3 comments. One, goes back to the road. The right-of-way is only 50 feet wide and must be increased to 60 feet, Rich says. Number 2, all roads maintained by the town must end in a cul-de-sac 150 feet, and then it gets cut off at the end. So I'm not sure. Is it, Glenn, do you know what the
He's talking about the required 150-foot radius.
The radius
for the bulb.
Okay, all right. And number 3, 8-unit housing is not allowed in any zone.
Yeah, that's not correct.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay.
He and I spoke about that.
Oh, okay, good. And the last comment sheet is from the health department, and it is no comment. So, okay. All right. Questions, comments from the board?
I had a question about your newest design with the 24 units per building. What would those buildings look like as far as height and size?
The ones that we're showing on the plan, they're actually they're the same. That there's a development over in Hooksett called University Heights, and they're that the same as that. I'm not sure of the height. They would be 3-story, 8 units per floor structures. And I could, if we were to submit that, we'd have pictures and everything else for that.
Okay.
I have 2 questions.
Yep, Lynn.
The first one is for Scott. Would these be apartments or condos, or haven't you decided yet? I noticed some things said apartments, some said condo, some didn't say anything.
I don't believe that's been decided yet, how the ownership would be determined, if it would be apartments or sold as condos.
And that leads me to a question for Glenn Greenwood. Do we consider detached condominium units multifamily housing?
Detached. I don't know what you're saying.
Okay, so we have a couple of condominium, detached over age 55 condominium units in town. And so the condos are detached. Do we consider those condominium developments multifamily housing?
No.
I don't believe so, no. Because they're standalone units, and multifamily housing as defined by the state are units, structures that have 3 or more units within the structure.
Well, the reason I was asking was if we did, then his plan number 2 might be feasible, that's all.
Okay. Other comments or questions? Ellen?
Do we allow 3-story structures in town? I don't know.
We have
I
a
don't
height
believe
restriction.
height requirement, I think maybe 30 feet.
I think it's 35 feet.
I believe it's 35.
And so that might be one of the variances that Scott was referring to, perhaps.
And I feel bad for the applicant that because this was one just proposed tonight, the fire department hasn't been able to weigh in on any requirements they may have for anything proposed to be three stories.
In C1, our regulations are 45 feet.
Oh, good catch, woman.
That would be 108.13A.
Well, there must have been some forethought there, huh? It couldn't have been just a random error.
Well, I saw it in zones, commercial zones 1 and 2. I didn't check number 3 yet, but I found it in 1 and 2.
Well, I mean, it makes sense because in commercial zone 1, there was the thought of, larger buildings and so forth. So it probably was a deliberate.
It's also in C3. So it's 1, 2, and 3, all the commercial zones.
Ah, okay. Other items from the board? Richard, you're eating there. Snacking away. Must have some good barbecue hanging on. All right. Okay, nothing else apparently from the board. I'll open it for public comment at this point because this is a public hearing. And I see some names on the screen. I know that some of them are affiliated with the project, but there are some I don't recognize. And if you'd like to speak, please make yourselves known. And they appear to be remaining silent. Okay. All right, we'll close public comment then. Anything else from the board? Any thoughts or guidance for the applicant as they think about this? Does anyone else from the applicant's team wish to speak, either Ms. Roy or Ms. Carter? No, apparently not. Okay.
If I could
Scott,
speak.
any last comments or questions from you?
Yeah, we'd just like to talk about the density a little bit and how if that 120 is something that's viable, just to have a discussion so that we come away with it, that the applicant could feel, I know nothing's binding, but could feel comfortable that 120 is something that the board feels comfortable with.
Now, when you get to the 120 number, are you getting to that by keeping the lots separate or by combining them?
Well, it's a combined, but if we were to look at each lot, I believe we have enough upland on each lot to handle the 40 units, because we could overall with the density, we could get 200 units with the upland that's on the 3 lots. So we could do a calculation that shows how many units per lot that we obtain that 40 units per lot.
Wouldn't it be a little awkward doing a proposal like this and having the 3 lots separate, Glenn?
It would be. I mean, in the real world, you want to look at a development that's going to be one lot, right?
Right.
But I think it's clear that our ordinance penalizes that concept by putting this artificial limit on a development. I'm not sure that we meant to do that or we gave that enough thought.
Yeah.
But it may be something we want to think about considering.
Well, yeah, but okay. Ellen?
It's a zoning issue. It would have to be a town vote to change it.
Well, that's why I'm a little hesitant about it, because it's, from a timing perspective, if the applicant was looking at trying to do something, reasonably soon, and of course, when it goes to town vote, you're rolling the dice. You never know what's going to happen. Ellen?
Couldn't the applicant figure out what the, how many units could actually be done on each individual lot and prepare a plan that assumed that at the end of the proposal, a condition of approval would be to merge all 3 lots? I'm just saying that if
They could, it would require agreement by the owners, but yes, they could, I would assume they could do that.
And that way the board's going to actually get a real number as to the amount of units that would be allowed on each individual lot based on the actual wetlands and vernal pools and setbacks. So you'll get a true number per lot, and then just have them prepare it like, if you guys approve this, we're going to record it as one lot as a condition of approval. Would that be a legitimate way to do it?
Well, it's kind of a way around it, I suppose.
Well, if the board thinks that the intent was not to be dismissive about, okay, you can either have 40 acres and build X amount, or you can have 76 acres and build the same amount. If the board doesn't think that was actually the intent, I don't know why.
Yep.
You're saying if they all did it individually, they'd be able to get, I don't see what the difference is, but
right.
That's just a thought to think about, and Glenn can research the possibility, but.
Can I just have a clarification question on that?
Sure.
So if we were to do the 3 lots, would it be based on the 4 units per upland acre, or the maximum of 40 acres per lot, or how would that? Because on some, like say that top lot, lot 2, you're going to get more than 40 units on that if we use the 4 per upland acre. So would that calculation that Ellen was talking about be maximum out, how many units you could get out there? Or would it be you hit 40 and you're done on each lot?
I personally think at this point, we don't know the answer to that, but it would be something that maybe you could think about and work with Glenn on to see if it's a possibility. Because nothing we talk about here tonight is etched in stone anyway, but it could be, it's just a thought process to see whether or not it would or would not work. It may not, but I just figured I'd throw it out there.
Well, it's a creative idea that maybe you can explore with Glenn as you develop your plan, Scott.
Okay.
Is this something that they could get ZBA relief on?
There is a couple things that, depending on the right of way, I thought was one of them, but that if that's in the subdivision, that would be a waiver from the planning board. And then the other one, variance I was thinking about was the larger buildings. So if the applicant decided to go that way, that would require a variance. Other than those two, I don't believe, and that's assuming we get some relief from DOT and different places for that access. Because if we have that one single point of access, obviously our road's much longer than the allowed length.
Right.
Well, I was thinking of ZBA relief to the 40 units per lot.
Right, that is in zoning.
Well, obviously, if that's in the ordinance, then it's something that could be appealed to ZBA.
Chairman, can I just say also that you still could keep it as 3 separate lots? I mean, you're talking about merging them as into one lot, but it still could be a development that has 3 separate lots and 3 separate owners, but can still have an association that is made up of each of the 3 lots. So just thought I'd throw that out too.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems with that would be the setbacks to all the interior lot lines too would encumber all of the lots.
Right. Yeah, it's going to limit your flexibility on how you lay things out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, other thoughts? Scott, any other things you'd like to chat about?
No, I think we got quite a bit. I mean, the density is the big thing for the applicant to figure out. What I'm hearing is that maximum is probably 120, and potentially we may have to determine that per lot to make sure that we have 40 at least per lot.
And the issue of traffic out to that intersection, I think that's something that you're going to need to have an answer to before you come back to the board.
Yeah, I would imagine a full traffic study will be required for that intersection by it's state road, so DOT.
Right.
And
Ellen?
It did look like putting in the required cul-de-sac might impact your development a little bit.
If we put it at the end of that access road, there's, depending on what layout we went with, we could do it up at the very end by where we do the emergency access only, and have it be like a P-shaped cul-de-sac instead of a standard teardrop one.
And you'd probably be exceeding the road length, is that right, Glenn, to the cul-de-sac? So, and that's a waivable thing, is that right? Because that's in the regs.
Correct.
Right.
I think we got some good stuff, and unless the board has some more comments for us.
Well, I'm not seeing hands up or people jumping up to ask questions, so I'm guessing that they're pretty much set at this point.
I got one thing, Len.
Peter.
This would be maybe some helpful advice to the applicant. As you stated, there's been multiple inquiries on that piece of property, and one of the big topics is always the traffic. That's all. Obviously, it's State 107 and Route 125. So maybe addressing that before they go too much further in this to see what they can do for that traffic may help the applicant. It always seems like we come back to traffic on the same topic over and over and over again.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in a development this size, I mean, I think it's a legitimate concern that the town would have. I mean, and as Scott said, it's that roadway exits onto a state route, and it's very close to the intersection with another state route. So DOT will be, will have a lot to say about that. But and Scott's already recognized that it's going to need traffic study. I mean, the board's going to need to see that. DOT is going to need to see that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have started preliminary conversations with District 6 about this, because we had a lot of questions about the 50-foot strip, and so they're aware of that we were coming and that we were talking with the board about it, and so they're in the loop kind of, and they wrote us a letter of how to apply to get that access on the upper end of the project, and let us know the fees and everything in the process of that. So
great. Well, good luck with that.
Scott, is the it looked as though on your plan that northerly access was indicated to be for emergency only. Does the approval process with DOT make a difference if it's just emergency access as opposed to regular access onto a limited access highway?
I'm not 100% sure, but I would think an emergency access would be easier to get, but that would be something we would have to obviously iron out with DOT if it moved forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was just curious.
Would want it to be a full access, but, and it's kind of that location we show it is if you go up 125, there's been Heidi's sign is actually out there right in that area where you go up 125, you look into the property. It's a great location for an access if they were to grant one there.
Yep.
Or site distance.
Okay. Any other last final comments?
It's a great sign too.
All right. Okay, if there's nothing further, we'll bring this hearing to an end and wish you well in putting this together, and maybe we'll see you with a formal proposal.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Okay. We are into our final stretch here, and I know that Mr. Pascoe is still on and wants to address the board. So before we get into other board business, I'll give you the opportunity, Mr. Pascoe, if you have something you'd like to ask us or talk to us about.
Thank you. I appeared before the board approximately 30 days ago. Final comments were made. And I was told at that time, if I submitted the changes in writing, that I would get a relatively quick turnaround on a signature. Mr. Greenwood took a week to get me the list. Within a week, he had the plans revised from Mr. Lavelle with a request for his review before he printed a Mylar for a signature. 4 phone calls, 3 or 4 emails later, and I have not gotten one response from Mr. Greenwood. So I asked the board, what's going on?
All right. Well, I'm not sure that the board would know what's going on because that's probably a question that's better answered by Mr. Greenwood.
Absolutely. Have you spoken with Tim?
Regarding?
The fact that he got my comments last Thursday?
He got them last Thursday and I wasn't copied on it?
No, I don't think I copied you on it. He
I was copied on everything.
Well, he made the request of me, so I sent my response to him.
And what did that include?
It said that everything was included on the list except the plan didn't have any information about the well radius.
The well radius.
The well radius easement.
Was that on the list that you gave me?
Yes, that was on the first, that was the second half of the first item on that list.
And what's missing on it? Because the well radius was marked on the plan originally through the whole process.
You were responsible for getting a well release that was going to be recorded.
And I have a well release from myself and from the owners on the left side that will be recorded.
That's what has to be shown on the plan.
I don't recall that being one of the items on the list at all.
It was the second half of the first item.
Okay.
On the list that
You
I sent
couldn't respond to me after 7 or so communications. You couldn't just say you have to deal with Mr. Lavelle on one last item. Why would you not answer my phone calls or my emails? And I spoke to, I'm still speaking. I'm speaking. I waited 3 hours to speak. Now you could let me speak.
All right, Mr. Pascoe.
Yeah, I know. Ellen got a phone call from me. She said she would talk to you this Monday. even after talking to her about you not responding, you still didn't respond. I had to sit here for 3 hours to hear that you have another item that you were objecting to. You could have just sent me a message.
I responded to your consultant.
Didn't respond to me. Why not?
I guess the next time I will respond to both you and your consultant.
You've been responding to me on a typical basis for 6 months that I've been dealing with this project. And this last 3 weeks, you can't respond to one communication.
I responded to your consultant.
Does that please the board that he's not communicating with the person that's been waiting patiently all this time through meeting after meeting? Does that please the board that your planner is non-responsive?
If I can just add, the only emails I've gotten
I didn't email you though.
for reply is from Tim Lavelle.
Okay,
And
I did not.
I told Glenn that Mr. Lavelle was looking for him about Spruce Lane.
You don't recall talking to me on Friday?
Well, I told you that I would remind Glenn about
Thursday?
the plans. I didn't say I would remind Glenn to call you specifically. You were asking why he hadn't reviewed the plan yet.
I'm not blaming you for his lack of
No, I
communication.
know that, but
I'm just
what
stating
I told
that.
Glenn was that Mr. Lavelle wanted a reply to his emails about what was missing. So,
And he was waiting as well. So he was waiting. If you just replied back, how many days ago, Glenn?
Thursday.
So Thursday. So you basically waited, what, a week and a half to reply to him on one item when it should have gotten looked at and just dealt with,
I
right?
got to that review when I was able to get to that review.
When you were able to, okay. Again, I waited 3 hours. Does it please the board that your planner doesn't respond when there's numerous attempts by phone and email? Does it please everybody that I'm looking at right now? And if you tell me that it pleases you, then great for Kingston, right?
I think that that's something that the board needs to discuss with Mr. Greenwood and not and as a personal matter, not with the general public.
I would have to agree, Mr. Pascal. I'm sorry for your inconvenience, and I have nothing to do with the time on this matter, but this is the first I have heard of this. So some of the people you're looking at on the screen had no idea what's going on. Maybe we can look into this, as Mrs. Miller stated.
Okay. This is a personal
Sorry,
matter between
sorry,
Glenn Greenwood and myself on his side, not my side. I'm just trying to get this project wrapped up. I believe that he's using that, not responding to me intentionally because of the comments that were made as he handled this project from the beginning. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to expect when that last item is corrected and that's sent back to you, I'm going to expect a swift turnaround. I have a closing scheduled for October 2nd, and I can't get my inspections until I get this approval. Can that be accommodated?
We'll get back to Tim as soon as he gets me that plan.
You will handle it within how many days of getting it? Because if you do it as you did the last revision and you waited 7-10 days to get back to him, we're going to go in October, mid-October. Can you turn it around in one day?
He will get a response from me within 2 days of me hearing from him.
Okay. And how long will it take me to get a signature so I can get my inspections?
As soon as Glenn Koppelman is made aware that a plan is prepared and ready for final signing, he comes into the planning board office.
Okay. And I don't have a way to contact, and I'm not asking for a way to contact Mr. Koppelman. So how long will it take to get a signature? Reasonable question. So if Tim gets the plan back and the next day it's revised and you see it and you need 2 days, it be signed within a day.
Well, it all depends on my availability, Mr. Pasco, but normally when Glenn or Ellen call me to tell me that a Mylar is ready to be signed, I very often get to the town hall within a day of that phone call to sign the plan.
Okay. Do we specifically have to wait for that plan to be signed for me to be
Yes.
able to get my inspections?
Yes, you do.
It just can't be, it can't be the approval waiting for signature so
No,
I can get the ball moving.
no, it cannot.
It doesn't have to be recorded, but it does have to be signed. And if the board is interested, I do have the emails with all of the dates from Mr. Lavelle that I can forward them so you can see them for yourself. With the board realizing that Mr. Greenwood works Monday and Thursday afternoon, and one of the Mondays involved was a holiday. So if you want those emails and when the plans, et cetera, were sent according to Mr. Lavelle's emails, I do have copies of them, and I'm glad to share them with the board if you want to see them. But just let me know.
All right. Okay. I think we're set for that, Mr. Pasco. We'll await that final plan on the Mylar and get it signed, and we'll let you know when it's ready for recording.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Now, Mr. Pasco, do you want me to call you personally?
I'd like you to send me those emails as well, and I'd like you to call me personally, yes.
About the thing? Sure.
You'll forward me the emails from Lavelle?
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a few last items to deal with. Someone's going to have to remind me, Ellen or Glenn, where, or Richard maybe. No, Richard, you weren't there at the last meeting. Phil was there. We discussed the food truck, and I know, Robin, you were doing a little bit of research, but where did we end up on this? I still see
the board initially said that the food truck needed site plan.
Right.
Then that went back to the Board of Selectmen, who got a letter that Monday before their meeting. Richard wasn't there to tell the Board of Selectmen what the planning board had decided. They decided that it was temporarily okay for them to probably start to set up, but then the board discussed with Phil that that wasn't what the planning board said. Phil suggested we get the letter, give it to the board to get the letter to find out what they thought about it, and then for the planning board to make any additional recommendation. In the meantime, the board held off replying to the applicant specifically because their intention was not to step on the planning board's toes. They interpreted one way based on the letter and suggested that the planning board read and review the letter and see what suggestions or comments or thoughts they had, what I recall.
And I'll say the select board was fully made aware of the planning board wanting them to go back. But they obviously had a mind loss there for a minute or something.
Well, they chose
about that, in fact, and that's something, you know, that we were all talking about, maybe something in the future dealing with food trucks specifically.
Well, it was, I watched the video of the meeting that they discussed this, and I know you weren't there, Richard, you were away, but, and yes, they were aware of the planning board's position on it.
And also I called the applicant, I called the VFW the next day after the planning board said they wanted to see them and told them that too.
Yeah. But the select board had a different thought on this. So so where are we on this now then? Ellen?
You're supposed to read the letter and see if the planning board has the same opinion that it needed some sort of site review, or whether the letter and what was described in the letter has made any changes to the board's previous decision.
So are you suggesting I read the letter from August of 2020?
I'm suggesting nothing but Glenn shaking his head up and down.
Okay.
I mean, I think that we have to do that.
Oh, all right. Okay. But so we haven't done that part already. We haven't read this letter.
No.
Okay. All right.
I mean, it was distributed. Probably everybody has read it, but we've not read it as a board.
All right, I'll read it into the record. It's from Up Street Food Truck LLP in Newton, New Hampshire. It's dated August of 2020, and it has a description stating that it's a brief proposal to operate Up Street Food Truck LLP at the VFW in Kingston, New Hampshire, to whom it may concern. In cooperation with the Kingston VFW Commander Derek Hines, Up Street Food Truck LLP is preparing a business plan to utilize the Kingston VFW as a licensed prep kitchen and location for selling wholesome local food. We plan to acquire the necessary licensing and approval from the health inspector prior to opening. We will also comply with any and all guidelines as outlined by the New Hampshire Department of Health and Human Services. We see this as an opportunity to gather information and ensure the town of Kingston has been notified of our intentions. Below are some of the details relating to our proposal. Hours of operation in 2020, potentially beginning in October, November, weather permitting. Temporary planned events only Saturdays and Sundays. Hours 12 to 8 p.m. Estimated customer turnout 50 to 100 per day, parentheses, following all COVID-19 regulations and restrictions, end quote. Oh, I'm sorry, end parentheses. Note, we may want to increase the number of days we will operate at the VFW based on turnout, and will provide an update before doing so. Thank you for your time and consideration. With any questions regarding Up Street Food Truck LLP, please feel free to contact the owners below, and it's signed by Celine Costa, Scott Magnuson, and they provide a phone number and an email. So does that description change the thought of the board on it requiring further review by us, as we traditionally do for these things? And I believe that was part of our discussion when we had it the last time, was that for consistency, whenever we had a food truck situation, it was or mobile food vendor, it was reviewed as a site activity and went through site plan review.
I think that was the main reason that you thought it needed to come in, was for consistency.
Right.
Yeah, and I think that still holds. Phil Coombs last meeting did say that he had advised them that it may require planning board review, and that they were aware that they might have to come to get that. I think that for the reasons you just said, that we should still go through that.
Other thoughts?
I think there's a big difference too in requiring them to come in or requiring the VFW to do a full site plan review. You're talking major dollar difference, because there's not a site plan done on the VFW. So if they have to do a major site plan, you're talking about a lot of money.
Right, but they could certainly request something less than a full site plan review, and the board could consider that.
Well, that was brought up, and I thought because there was nothing on file, they couldn't do an expedited review.
No, they can't do an expedited review.
Do an expedited one, because that specifically requires an existing site plan. But the planning board, like we did with the individual who wanted to do the yoga health center last meeting, the board can determine that a new plan isn't required, or some sort of other process can take place. But I got to say, my take from that last discussion was that what you're indicating, Richard, you were saying a full site plan was going to have to be done, and
I didn't say that. That's what the board said.
I mean, that would be expensive, and that was the takeaway I had with the discussion.
I think the thing that bothers me is that we made the gentleman who wanted to purchase the property across the street from Carriage Town Plaza go through an entire site plan to put a hot dog truck on the land. And I think we need to be consistent. So either we make a decision not to go through that for anything like this in the future, or, I mean, if we're going to require it for one person, we need to require it for somebody else. And we made him go through a whole site plan.
Yep.
My theory would be to have him delay his process and put something on the ballot dealing with food truck.
I have to agree with Lynn. I know Phil spoke on behalf of this gentleman, and he kind of targeted this business as trying to do certain things because of this COVID problem we're experiencing. But the consistency, I think, is very important with this board. And it seems that it does vary from time to time and application to application. And people see this and they kind of question why that's happening.
And at the time, we discussed, all he wants to do is put a hot dog truck there. Does he have to go through the whole process? And the answer was yes, and it was required that he do that.
And as somebody who utilizes that portion of Route 125 quite a bit, I think that changes the traffic structure to all of a sudden having 100 cars coming out every day in and out if people haven't had a public process to know that that may be happening.
Not to mention the additional distraction with signage and so forth that will clearly be asked for out there. It's again, all of that would get handled in site plan review.
Mm-hmm.
Other thoughts from the board?
We also made the same decision just up the hill from there to the south, where somebody wanted to put a taco truck in on the old Bayberry site, and they didn't come when we told them that it would require a review. Obviously, that's a busy intersection and has been modified. It would have access problems, but for all those reasons, it did need some kind of review, and so I've got to go along with it. It's disappointing that it's an expensive process. It doesn't have to be that expensive, but it should be a public review.
Define not that expensive. If they have to survey that plot and turn in a site, that's going to be expensive.
Because it didn't have an existing.
Right. That's the issue. That's the issue here is that it doesn't have an existing site plan.
That's what I was told.
Right.
And neither did the other two properties that wanted to do this.
Right. Ellen or Robin, do you wish to weigh in on this any further?
Sorry, I had to take an emergency call for work briefly, but if I'm catching myself up, it sounds like specific to the food truck at the VFW, folks are leaning towards having them in for a site plan review.
Right, to be consistent with other applications of a similar nature that we've dealt with in the past.
So my only thought on that would be that and I know there's no existing site plan, but the difference from at least the taco truck, as I understand it, is that there is a kitchen, an operational licensed kitchen that is approved for food service at the VFW. Is that correct?
I believe so.
I believe that's true.
So I know when this came up last time, I looked at the hours that they were proposing against what the state regulations are for mobile food service units. And assuming their hours of operations exceed what is approved by the state, they do need to meet all of the state requirements, which they would based on what they proposed. So I guess my feeling is if it's more of an expansion to a mobile unit that's temporary and time limited, that to me feels different than a food truck that's on a site that doesn't have existing approval to operate food service.
So my question is, are they running a food truck and cooking everything on the food truck, or are they using the kitchen and doing something a little different as restaurant kind of thing? They're sort of walking the line.
Well,
I
and
think we need to talk about that.
if in fact the kitchen in the building is part of this business, then the food truck could be viewed as an expansion of that activity, and therefore, again, justifying that it should have site plan review as an expansion of the business or expansion of use.
Well, when they came to the select board, I understood it as every food truck has to have a kitchen they respond to. And the VFW was letting them use their kitchen for that, response, for cleaning, for, everything they have to do.
Yep. Again, I go back to my thought that because of that, there's a real link between the truck and the building, the site, the activity that's happening there. And the two of them are integral and related.
Why don't I talk to them and see what they want to do? I'll tell them what you just said about that and see if it is, part of the connected business.
Ellen?
It seems to me that the town is trying to accommodate somebody without any ability to do so. And to go along with what Peter said, it's unfortunate, but if the town wants food trucks, then the town should say so. And there should be ordinances and regulations that are specific to food trucks. And right now we don't have them. So we either have to be consistent with how we've dealt with food trucks to go along with what Peter was saying earlier. But we can't just start saying, oh, we feel bad for them, so we're going to do it, even though we told 3 other people they can't. I don't think that is very good for the board's reputation. And it's unfortunate that we don't have a way to deal with just this extra thing, but we don't.
And I somewhat agree with you, and that's why I said maybe we should just tell them they're going to have to hold off until we do something on the ballot.
Mm-hmm. I know I looked at it. Portsmouth has a food truck ordinance, and it's very site specific, and so it wouldn't be too hard.
Almost everyone's got one now.
Yeah, they're kind of
Okay.
a bad thing.
All right. Have we talked ourselves out on this one at this point, do you think?
Yeah.
Well, what is our response? That Richard's going to go back to the board?
Well, unless someone tells me differently, it sounds like at least the majority or the consensus is that this would need site plan review. And that's the message. And how the select board carries it from this point is.
This is one of those decisions I don't like, but I don't think there's a choice but to say no.
Mm-hmm. I think you just put a nail on it. That's exactly, I think, how we all feel. That we reluctantly say that this is required, and then we can put it on our agenda to do something about maybe a food truck ordinance.
Well, and that might be something the select board would want to introduce. I mean, that could be a select board ordinance.
I will talk to him Monday.
Okay. Do you want anything from us, Richard, as backup, or would the minutes suffice?
I think the minutes are fine.
All right. Okay.
Just by way of follow-up, because I know it was something I had said I would do. So I had reached out, admittedly not to Portsmouth, because I just based on their size, but to surrounding towns to try to get some sense of what their existing ordinance was if I couldn't find it online. And I have yet to hear back from anybody. So
really,
I'll keep plucking away.
Jeez. Can you share with us what towns you reached out to?
So I reached out to Newton, and then I had reached out to, by way of a mutual acquaintance, Glenn.
Yes.
Hampton Falls, all of the towns that fall under the Rockingham Planning Commission.
Okay.
Plastow, I think, was in there.
Yep.
There is another source. You can put it on PlanLink. I don't know if Glenn, you still have access. I can do it if you don't.
I still have access.
You have access.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be a good place. You can just stick it out there. It goes to other planners in the state, and they can send you what they've got.
It's a Robin, just in case you want to know, it's a listserv that has been around for a number of years now that I think it might have been started by the Office of State Planning way back, and it's continued to exist as a listserv that planners are on. Just be careful if you sign up for it, because you sometimes your inbox will explode once you get your books into it.
You have to, when you sign up, you have to set up a designated folder.
Oh, those listservs. Would I do through either Glenn or Peter?
Well, I think if you don't want to really be on that, Glenn could put the question out on listserv as a planner.
Just funnel you the responses, if that's okay.
Yeah, that would be great. Or just people can respond directly to me if that's even more efficient.
Well, do you want them having your contact information?
I don't think you do, Robin.
That's what I was trying to subtly hint.
We're trying to
Thank you all for caring.
We're trying to save you from yourself.
Thank you.
Okay, so Glenn, you'll do that?
I will.
Okay, thank you. All right. I know that there's we need to discuss the issue of on-site meetings and the possibility or thereof of resuming them at some point, and we will talk about that. I don't have any other critical correspondence. We dealt with the food truck. We dealt with the auto licensing issue. Ellen, was there anything else that didn't come to me?
Oh.
Glenn?
I'm sorry, you were asking about correspondence, so I was raising my hand out of turn.
Please, yes.
No, I was raising, what I have to do is not correspondence.
Oh, well, all right. Okay, well, hang on. Can we do the minutes of August 18th, and then we'll go to Glenn, and then we'll deal with the on-site meeting issue?
Okay, I'll move that we accept the minutes for August 18th as submitted.
I have a correction.
Okay.
Me too.
Let's get it motioned and seconded, and then we'll take the so motion by Peter Coffin, second by
Lynn
Merrill. Okay, discussion. Robin?
So on page 10, forgive me because my notes are my notes, but there was a typo that the word corned, I think it was in the second paragraph. Let me see if I can pull it up. Should be corner.
Okay.
You had resent them, right? Yes, here they are.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Clearly everybody's internet connection is slow, but I feel like everything's taking a really long time to look at. So I apologize.
I'll find it. It's the word corned that needs to be corner.
Correct.
Yeah.
On page 10.
Yep.
Okay. Ellen will find that and correct it.
Okay.
And the last sentence on page 6, at the very end of the sentence, it said Mr. Merrill said, but that should be Mr.
Did I say
Morrill.
Mr. again?
No, you didn't. It was Mr. Morrill.
Mr. Morrill says
Mr. Morrill.
You know.
And I was just wondering if when you did the minutes, if it wouldn't be a bad idea if we also included the organization that the consultants or the engineers represent. So it'd be Mr. Morrill of, Mr. Wayne Morrill of whichever company he belongs to, just in case for some reason somebody needs to get back in the future years and needs to find him, they'd know where he worked.
Yep.
Or any consultant worked. Just
okay. then somebody has to make sure they say that during the hearing.
Exactly. Well, I get that.
And maybe it only needs to be referenced for the first time they speak, and then
Correct.
perhaps after that, it doesn't need to be repeated, just for brevity's sake.
Maybe it's just something that when people introduce themselves, we ask them to give their name.
Yeah.
Where they, and instead of, usually we say your name and where you live, but maybe we could just say, if it's a consultant, your name and the organization you work for.
I will try to remember to ask that, and if I forget, Lynn, you can just jump in and kick us.
You don't expect me to remember that another whole meeting away.
Oh God. Okay.
Okay, so that was
So I'm
Mr.
sorry.
It says Mr. Merrill and it needs to say Mr. Morrow.
Correct.
On page 6. Okay.
Any other corrections or adjustments to the minutes of August 18? So we have a motion, we have a second. And so I will ask Ellen to call the roll for the minutes as amended.
Glenn Koppelman,
Yes?
Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Richard Wilson,
Yes.
Robin DeGuay,
Yes.
Peter Baiki.
I'm not sure if I have to abstain, but I was not there, so I'm not voting.
Okay. Peter Cobb,
Yes.
Ellen, I'll say yes.
Okay, so that's, oh, Rich, did you call Richard?
I called Richard.
Okay.
So 6-0.
But-
So 6,
No, I wanted to, I guess, make an acknowledgement, because in my quest to find the approval for Flacco's Tacos in Newton, I spent a lot of time wading through their planning board minutes, and ours are a lot more comprehensive and well written, so and easier to navigate. So well done.
Thank you.
well, thank you for that. Okay, so the vote was 6 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstention.
If I could just bring one thing up. Mr. Pasco called me this morning to voice the complaint that he voiced during our meeting. And so I dropped into town hall and spoke to Ellen for a minute. And she explained to me, one of the things was that Glenn had only been in the office for a limited period of time because of the holiday. And with the volume of work in front of us, I thought I might just sort of ask Glenn, if there's a holiday, would it make sense to work another 4 hours that week so that you're getting the full 8 hours in for the week? Just a thought.
I did that. I came in and worked.
Oh, okay. Okay. Forget it then.
This is probably a discussion we might want to do at another time, but it's also the issue of the fact that, we have very limited staff capacity. We have a part-time town planner, we have a part-time administrative assistant, we have a town hall that's for the most part, closed right now for, or at least on limited capacity for COVID, and so is our response to things as it would be if we were, with complete full-time staff? Probably not.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Glenn.
No, go ahead.
But as you're talking, I'm thinking that it's been 2 years now since, 1 year. Time flies. As my husband often says, oh, maybe it was 2 years, maybe it was 5, maybe it was 10. But it seems like Glenn has been our planner in this new capacity for some time. And I know that after a certain period of time, we reviewed how it was working out, and whether we had needed more hours, if we needed less hours, kind of an idea of how it was doing. And we had determined that at that point, status quo was working well. Maybe we need to think about having another discussion before they finish preparing the budget, to think about whether or not we are going to need more time or not time as we're moving forward with all the large things that are upcoming.
Right. I think last year we did increase hours, did we not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. And so the question is, based on what we're looking at coming up, Glenn and Ellen, do you think that the hours that we have for our staff is enough to handle what's coming?
I would be willing to bet that the Sears project takes less time and effort than his project did.
I would like to say that I think that there does not have to be an adjustment in hours for me.
Okay.
And Glenn, just a quick correction for you. I believe you'll find out that the town offices are open to full capacity. It's just the planning board that has the hours of adjustment. So you may want to look into that.
Human Services also has the same, Human Services also has adjusted hours.
Human Services?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's you as far as the planning board as well, right? It's not the full town. That's your department, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, correct. So the town offices downstairs, the building that I deal with often, everybody's to full capacity with the town office, except those two departments.
Yeah, I misspoke, Peter. Thank you for the correction.
All right, just so you know.
It was shut down for quite a while. I realize now that I do know that it is open again. But thank you for the
last 3 months it has been open. Thank you.
Thank you for slapping me about that. Okay.
Just one other thing. During our meeting tonight, a couple of the agents came into the office who are now working at night because they are home with their children during school during the day. And they said that the internet service all day long was impossible. The kids were getting thrown out of the Zoom and the Google Meet meetings, and it was just, they were on about 50% of the time. And part of the time they were on, they didn't have either video or audio. So they said it was really a tough day for video, for internet throughout the town, apparently.
Comcast is not prepared for everybody to be home and all the kids to be home.
Right. Right.
Well, it seemed to be working after a while, but we're all on different things and they all like crashed at the same time.
Right.
And then came on, about a half an hour later. But
the only one, everyone else seems to have come back okay. The only one that didn't is Peter Bakey, because whenever Peter speaks, it's all broken up. So I don't know. Okay. Can we get back to, we need to take the roll. No, we did that already. We did roll call on minutes. Okay. So two more things that I have. One is, Glenn, if you have something, let's do that. And then we'll do the discussion on site.
Yes. I would like to get a ratification of the regional impact declaration.
Yes.
By the board for the 266 Route 125 LLC.
Right.
So my question to you, Glenn, would be that I tried to reiterate with email. I guess I wasn't very. Have they come back and submitted you a new set of plans since the preliminary hearing?
Yeah.
Yes, we have. The plans that are posted online are a completely new set of plans for our hearing on the 29th.
You should have
came back to you.
Yeah, you should have those, Peter.
You should.
They're
Okay,
big.
I know those are new compared to our last meeting. So they actually gave an application to the town after that. The last meeting we had was the
design review.
Yeah, design review.
The design review. Yes.
Then they've actually submitted an application for that project.
Yes, they have. Yes.
Yes,
and this application has a full traffic impact study, full drainage analysis. There are a few more pages to the plan set. Yeah, it was a full new application.
It's a formal application now. Yep.
Okay, that's what I was I guess I was unaware of that part of it.
Yep.
Yeah, it's still 266 Route 125 LLC or whatever.
They're still not saying anything about, the smiley face.
Okay. We've talked enough about the application because it's not on the agenda tonight. So Glenn is looking for ratification of the email vote, the email solicitation he did on the board's indication that this either is or is not worthy of doing a developments of regional impact review. And Glenn, did you?
And just by way of a little bit more information, I just want to make it clear, all this does is it expands those entities that are granted the right to provide a butter testimony as if they were a direct abutter. In this instance, the individuals, the entities that it goes to are municipalities that could be impacted by the development and the Regional Planning Commission for our region. And so that's the Rockingham Planning Commission. And I expanded out the list of communities, Lynn, to include East Kingston. I also included Seabrook because you could conceivably get to 95 by going through East Kingston, Kensington, and Seabrook to get to the 95 interchange. And that might be a route that truckers take out of the facility.
I guess my thought, I was very concerned. I had questions because I didn't know what the rule was. And one of my concerns was when traffic goes south on Route 125, more cars turn right and go to Hampstead than go south to Plastow, according to the latest traffic studies. So.
And Hampstead was included as well.
Yeah, so that was one of my things. I thought that you should include more communities rather than others. The other reason that I changed my mind on agreeing to go ahead without us meeting was because you said the applicant requested it.
It was their direct request.
If the applicants requested, then I'm at that point became fully supportive of it.
And honestly, it's usually the applicant that doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
Because if there's more voices, the risk is for them that their application is going to have more scrutiny.
Yeah.
They actually they want it. They understand because the statute says, it's very odd language, but the statute says if there's any question that there could be regional impact, then the planning board should declare it regional impact. And there's no question that because of the size of this development, there's gonna be a lot of traffic generated.
And I can tell you that sitting on the Regional Impact Committee at the Planning Commission, a project of this size and impact, if our board did not declare it a project of potential regional impact, I believe that we would be falling way short of our duties as a planning board.
And nobody didn't want to do it. There was only concern have it done in the public forum.
Right.
I want to make that clear too. Nobody said, oh no, I don't think that that's a good thing to do.
Okay, so how do you want to ratify it, Glenn? You want to do it by motion? And
it should be by motion, yeah, if you don't mind.
All right.
Motion to ratify.
To declare 266 Route 125 LLC as a project of regional impact.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion by Richard. Who seconded it?
I did.
Lynn. Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? All right. Ellen, would you please call the roll?
Sure. Glenn Kopelman?
Yes.
Lynn Merrill?
Yes.
Richard Wilson?
Yes.
Robin Duguay?
Yes.
Peter Coffin?
Yes.
Peter Baiki?
Yes.
Me? Yes. Okay.
Okay, so that's unanimous. And I know that because time was critical here, I know that Glenn already sent out materials to these communities and to the Planning Commission. Is that right, Glenn?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, good. Okay, so the last item I have is to get back to our discussion about possible on-site meetings for planning board, and so I want to throw that open. I know that Ellen provided us an email with a little bit more guidance. we did go back and check New Hampshire Municipal Association. They have not updated their guidance since the last time, and I communicated with Steve Buckley there directly, and he said that they would be updating it, but didn't have a specific time for me, and so so we don't have that to refer to. So all we really have are the emergency orders and so forth, and Ellen did cite some of that in there. So so why don't we open it up for discussion?
Okay, well, about the only thing that changed since the meeting when Peter brought this up was that the emergency order was extended again. Before our last meeting, there was an additional executive order regarding requirement to wear masks in meetings of over, I mean, it's scheduled events of over 100, but that didn't affect the original emergency order. There was an uptick in number of cases, and especially in Rockingham County. It may have been associated with some schools starting, but we don't know what. So there's obviously no vaccine, so virtually nothing's changed. The executive orders remained in place, and all the guidance has remained the same. It's out there. Just give you personal experience is that we do meet in person with the ZBA, but it's a much smaller group. And we frequently max out, even if there's 2 or 3 couples that show up to be heard. That pretty much fills the hall. So I think personally, I think this board is a little bit too big, and there are probably too many people who would want to appear in person that would not be able to get into the room. And I would say it's working well online. So I'm a long way of saying I don't think we should change quite yet. I think we can reevaluate on a monthly basis if there's any conditions that change, or changes to executive orders or whatever, or guidance from CDC that would indicate that none of that has changed. If anything has become more strict.
Peter, I would have a couple questions. So my first question would be, the last 2 or 3 months we've held hearings on this Zoom platform that we seem to have quite a bit of issues with people staying connecting, signal service. How many people have we had on these Zoom platforms? 5. So with 5 extra people to our board in that hall, which they've made so we can have public meetings there as the ZBA, the selectmen's meeting, and everybody else. I don't understand the difference. Secondly, I don't know what platform the other boards are working on. Are we working on a different platform? And the third thing I would ask is, you worked at the polls all day long. There was over 1,000 people that went through that building that day. 1,000 people, Peter. You worked at the elections all day long. I'm talking 5 people at our meeting, and I don't understand. I'm curious on the difference of you coming down to the high school for the elections and volunteering all day long, but we can't sit in our town hall and hold a meeting at night. I just don't know the difference. So maybe you can answer that one.
I'll tell you straight off. The reason I volunteered was because there were so few election workers that were willing to volunteer. Because most of us are older, but the conditions that were put into effect with the plexiglass and with double masking and everything else created a much safer environment than, for example, even the ZBA meetings were, in spite of the fact that the sign says masks required, people aren't wearing them. So I'm less comfortable at a ZBA meeting than I was at the polls. And I just it's a different environment, and I wouldn't be entirely uncomfortable having planning board there. But if we start exceeding the number that is safe to maintain the social distancing, then it does become an issue. And
I agree
that's
with you.
when we talked about before is you have to cancel a meeting when you can't meet the requirements in the room. You can't put everybody in. Now hybrid might be work, but right now the select board meeting, it's not a very good hybrid. If you're on Zoom, you don't hear a lot. If you're on the stream, you miss a lot of the stuff that's on Zoom. It's, as Rich can probably tell you, it's
horrible.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, until and unless the town were to invest in the technology to make a hybrid meeting work, I don't think that that's an option at this point.
Just for the sake of comparison, void of combing through the minutes, we don't have a separate attendance that would let us know how many people from the public attended pre-COVID versus now that it's on Zoom, right?
Not unless people spoke.
Right.
At the
That's
meeting.
like, for instance, tonight, our highest attendance was 27 people. Tonight. I don't know if anybody realized that, but
right. We had about that on the first design review for the 266.
No, the first design review for 266, we had 47 people.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it could handle it. That was that went pretty smoothly, as I said, except for the whole chat questions, which by the time they came up were kind of OBE. But I think it's been working well, and I think that as Glenn says, until you get a hybrid system that would work better. This platform is better than the way the Flexman meetings are running right now.
Absolutely.
So
other thoughts?
Yeah, I've thought long and hard about this. I've really thought about the pros and thought about the cons. I honestly think that the town leadership has I'm trying to be very diplomatic. No energy, I guess, or no incentive, no desire to communicate with the public. If they did, when we started asking 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Oh, for the projector.
To have a projector that could go out over TV so that people could watch it on TV, because almost everybody has a TV. We're now 6 or 7 years down the road and nothing has changed. The comments I got, the comments I got from the first 266 Route 125 presentation was that people were able to see the plans. They were able to walk through the plans with the mouse and the cursors. They could see what people were talking about, and they understood it. And the questions that were asked were way better than any questions we get in an in-person meeting, because they hadn't missed half the meeting because they couldn't hear somebody talking because of the acoustics in the room, or because they couldn't see what the planning board was seeing and had no idea what people were talking about. So they were asking questions. They'd often ask questions that were repetitive. I think the question procedure could be done a little bit better. If we do the meeting in 2 weeks on Zoom, I think, for one thing, I don't think there's any reason to answer a question 2 or 3, 4 times, the same question. I think, people are typing in their questions and they're not listening to what's going on. If it's a repetitive question, it's easy to say it's already been asked and answered. But especially by the time it gets to the 3rd or 4th time, I think people are sometimes asking the same question just for emphasis, not for knowledge. But I guess I think because of our communities, our town's lack of communication, lack of technology, there's only one way that we can actually get the general public in, and that is through Zoom. Now, on the other hand, I had a number of people speak to me and say, I didn't go to Zoom because I just wanted to watch it anonymously from my TV. I didn't want to have my name and the fact that I was attending and everything else right there for everybody to see. So I got that as well. But I think there are far more people that seem to appreciate the fact that they could finally see the plans and understand the plans than anything else. So if it were for me, I think the only way we can do this next time is Zoom. However, we should keep in mind what happened with the schools today and what happened with our own meeting earlier. We may have a lot of trouble.
By the way, the selectmen's meetings, as Rich will tell you, is are YouTube. You can do that with ease. Did we do that, Glenn, with the first design review on 266? Did we have that going out on Zoom?
I believe so.
Yeah.
It's going out live on YouTube as we speak.
Okay, so we are doing that anyway. I
just
was looking at the left-hand corner, and it just says record. Oh, there's the Zoom. Okay. So, anyways, there is a lag. So if you're trying to figure out what's going on in a selectmen's meeting, if you have YouTube going, and you're up on Zoom. Zoom is real time. YouTube's lags about 10 seconds, but at least you can hear what they're saying on the YouTube side. So. That's one possibility, but it has its own little problems. The lag, you're having to listen to a delayed conversation and the real-time conversation at the same time. So I still think this platform is good. It's not going to work when you get 100 people, I think, but who knows?
I mean, the other thing to keep in mind is, until the COVID situation settles or resolves itself, whenever that happens to be, anytime we decide to do an in-person meeting, if we don't provide an adequate way for people to participate, public people to participate, who might feel uncomfortable coming into the town hall, then that's a problem for our public process. And so it gets back to, our ability as a town to handle these things with the right technology.
Well, and I would add to Peter's earlier point, Coffin, about guidance from the CDC and risk mitigation strategies. I think, in a building like the town hall, you can open the windows and look for ventilation and do social distancing and do all those things. In the winter, that becomes problematic. The town I don't know what their interest or ability is to invest in, air scrubbers or air filtration systems that other people are using, other businesses are using. I also don't feel like as a volunteer, I can make a decision for people, one, who are employed by the town, or two, who, I just looking at our town census data, 30% of our population, just based on age, falls into a high risk category. So to your point, Glenn, I don't know how they would feel comfortable. I can't make that decision for them. So at some point I feel like what I would do personally is really irrelevant, because I'm not coming as a public, attendee, and I'm not a paid employee.
I think our town is sending mixed messages, with some organizations having in-person meetings, with some committees in person, other committees remote. But I don't know what the budget committee is going to do, but I think it would be nice if the town had a solid policy as to how everybody is to operate.
Yeah, I was sort of hoping for that quite a while ago, but
well, the recommendation from the government was to put it into the department heads' hands, because the committees typically are somewhat grouped alike, unlike the planning board. You know, typically like the historical group are all seniors and things, so it was kind of left up to them. And that it should be a vote of the people, how they feel, you know, comfortable. And I was first one that was dead set against Zoom meetings. I hate them. I like reading body language. I like everything else of the people there. But this works. I can hear everything. I can see the plans better. I can go in my refrigerator. I mean, this definitely works.
You can sit in the dark and be comfortable. We can't read your body language, Richard.
Yes, you can. Hey.
Oh, there you go.
But we could talk about this all night.
Well, we could, and I mean, I'm not, well, I hate to summarize. I know that Peter Bakey feels a very specific way about this. I'm not getting the sense that other people are as strong in that direction, but Ellen, you haven't said anything yet.
I just think as elected officials, we don't have responsibility necessarily to what we do or do not want to do, but it's our responsibility to the public. And if the majority of the public at this point is going along with CDC guidelines, I think we have a responsibility to go along with CDC guidelines and emergency orders from the governor. And until that changes, we have to make sure that the public is comfortable in participating in public hearings. And a lot of them do not want to come into public meetings and public buildings and be close to one another. And until that changes, I think the responsibility is to the public, no matter what we personally think we want to do.
And the responsibility is to your family.
That's true too.
Well, that too. Before we wrap this up, I just want to make sure that everybody, and this was in the email that Ellen sent out, and it's a quote from one of the from the Executive Order 2020-04. It was item number 8, and that executive order is still covered under the most recent emergency order. It says state and local government bodies are permitted and encouraged to utilize the emergency meeting provisions to conduct meetings through electronic means while preserving, to the extent possible, the public's right to notice of such meetings and the ability to observe and listen contemporaneously. And I mean, you know, granted, notwithstanding some of the technical issues that have occurred from time to time, and tonight was probably the worst of our technical snafus. But you know, notwithstanding those items, you know, the public has been able to participate, and I think we've been able to maintain the you know, the structure of our meetings and follow the governor's emergency order. So anyway,
maybe we should start our meetings at 8 o'clock after the kids go to bed.
There you go.
I vote yay for that.
Oh, no. Okay. So as
kidding.
As somebody said, maybe Richard, that we could talk about this all night. Is it safe to say that that at least a majority of the board is willing to continue this, and we'll reevaluate on it as, you know, I mean, every month we can touch base on it again, and depending on, you know, if all of a sudden the emergency orders are dropped and you know, everything loosens up, then I don't think there's going to be a question of what we do. But.
And I did double check that. If we have meetings that are scheduled through the Zoom platform and the emergency order, the governor's emergency order ends, we go immediately to having regular in-person hearings and have to repost and everything, because if the governor ends the emergency order, we can't do it and have to change it right away. So I did confirm what would happen should that happen, so we as a board know that, oh, it's not like, oh, it's posted already, we have to do it. The emergency order ends, that's it.
Right. We'll get a lead time that will allow us time to post because these orders have an expiration, and they're either extended or announced that they won't be extended at least 2 weeks prior to the expiration. So.
Do you want a motion, Glenn?
Sure.
I don't know what, so just a motion to continue the planning board meetings utilizing the Zoom platform at this time. I don't know what to.
I'll second that.
All right, motion by Ellen, second by Peter Coffin. I'm assuming that you've had enough discussion on this, so I'm going to ask Ellen to call the vote, call the roll for the vote, please.
Give me 1 second.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Okay. Glenn Koppelman,
Yes.
Lynn Merrill,
Yes.
Richard Wilson,
Abstain.
1, 2, 3. Robin Duguay,
Yes.
Peter Coffin,
Yes.
Peter Baiki,
Yes.
and Ellen is yes.
Okay, so the final vote is 6 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention. And as I said, we'll follow the guidance and we'll reevaluate it as we go. And there's no reason that we can't touch base on a monthly basis with this and just kind of reaffirm where we are. Is there any other business to conduct?
Glenn, what was the vote?
Peter, what?
What did you say the vote was?
6 in favor, 6 in favor, none opposed, 1 abstention.
I'm sorry, I thought you said 1 opposed. I'm sorry, thank you.
No, none opposed.
Thank you.
Yep. Anything else? All right, well, if there's no objection, I will adjourn the planning board meeting for September 15 at 10:05 p.m.
See you in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everyone. See you in a couple
Glenn,
weeks.
Greenwood, you're going to hang on for.
And yep.